Torah is just a long string of numbers. Some say that it's a code sent to us from God.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's just kid stuff. Check this out, okay? The word for the Garden of Eden, Kedem. Numerical translation, 144. Now the value of tree of knowledge, all right, in the garden, right? Eitz HaChaim, 233. 144, 233. And you can
Those
take
are
those
Fibonacci
numbers. So the
You know, like the Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci is an Italian mathematician in the 13th century. If you divide 144 into 233, the result approaches theta.
Theta?
Theta. Greek symbol for golden ratio, golden spiral.
Wow. I never saw that before. That's like that series you find in nature? Like the face of a sunflower?
Wherever the spirals.
You see this math everywhere.
Welcome back to the Gnostic Informant, and you are about to attain true gnosis. And today, I'm in the mood to argue. I'm in the mood to get nasty. The debate with Ammon Hillman. I have a lot of people, you saw it. We got to talk about it. The gaslighting, the goalpost shifting, the just straight up lying right to the camera, right to the face of Daniel Jones, right fingers right in Danny Jones's booty, right in front of the camera. All of that. We're going to show all that stuff. Yeah, you know, this reminded me of it just dawned on me recently. There was a debate like 10 years ago on Joe Rogan. It was with Graham Hancock. Randall Carson was supposed to be there as like a mediator, and the owner of Skeptic Magazine. I'm trying to think of his name right now. Maybe Steven remembers. Do you know this debate that I'm talking about that happened a long time ago on Joe Rogan? Anyways, it's like 10 years ago, back when I was like a dumbass back then. I didn't know shit about ancient history. I didn't know shit about geology or the earth or like, you know, like history that goes back into like millions of years. And, you know, I didn't know any of this shit. Right. And I'm watching, I can't think of his name right now. I'm watching this skeptic. He's a PhD. He's on Joe Rogan, and they brought him on to debate Graham Hancock. And I remember back then watching this and thinking Graham Hancock is destroying this guy. And I had no idea that what this guy was trying to do was trying to demonstrate that we just have no evidence for the claims that you're making. And he kept on repeating it over and over for the whole 4-hour debate. And like Joe Rogan was like, but is it possible that what he's saying could be true from what we don't know yet? And of course, that was like where the debate rested. The debate rested in like, what if Graham is right? And like this previous debate was just like that. For all the people who have no fucking clue, like barely even have a basic understanding of like early Christianity, ancient Greek, the history of Septuagint and all that stuff, they all probably thought that Ammon was landing haymakers. And you and I are watching this going, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
This is
very
horrible.
one-sided. Yeah.
This is like Luke is destroying him. But then you look at the comments and there's people who actually were like, it's guesswork. It's guesswork. Because they're repeating the slogan. Like Ammon like makes up slogans as he's good. He's like Donald Trump. Yeah. He says very basic things and then they get repeated. And they become like slogans. And this is kind of the gaslighting you see. And he kept going, so you're saying it's guesswork? And he's like, no, I'm not saying it's guesswork. I'm saying this is where the evidence is. This is what we know. Yeah. We don't need grammarians from the 7th century BC to know that there was Hebrew back then. We have inscriptions, that type of stuff. And the gaslighting, the goalpost shifting was insane. And so we got some clips ready. We're going to go through some of this stuff. I'm working on an actual like proper video that I've been doing almost for like a year now. Like I keep putting it aside. Every time, because I would get close to finishing it, and then Danny Jones would go, "Oh, we're actually going to do a debate," and I would go, "Okay, cool. I'm going to hold off and wait for this debate." Now we finally got it. I thought, and by the way, just so people know, this was all very controlled in favor of Ammon. Danny Jones was controlling it, and Ammon was controlling it, so that the arena was very controlled on what they would talk about. Niskos never got brought up once. Why? Because Ammon knows there's no debate there.
Show what I have on screen right now. I have just an overview right now of what this looked like. This was the debate structure, more or less. The first hour was patty cake. It was like we're classicists, we're bros. And 40 minutes they talked about Epiphanius, which seemed to me like they discussed in advance, but they were not planning. This was not part of the agenda. This got brought up by Ammon and they railed on it for 40 minutes. Then they spent,
and here's what drove me crazy about that real quick. I thought, I wish I was there. By the way, people are wondering, like, why Neil, you keep talking all this shit. Why don't you debate it? I get this all the time. He will not debate me.
Me neither.
Because I've been lockstep in this journey, watching Ammon rise in the public arena. And I've been watching everything he's been saying, and I've been fact checking and going to scholars and seeing if he's correct. And he knows that I know all of his shit's bullshit. He knows this. That's why he doesn't talk to me anymore.
Yep.
And he makes up different stories about it. That I was a student that he dropped. And then he tells other people I was a student that dropped out after Unit 3. Which one is it? Did I drop out after Unit 3, or did you dump? Which one is it? You're just making shit up now. But the point I'm saying is he won't debate you. He won't debate me. He doesn't want to debate anyone who actually follows his work. He made it clear to Danny Jones he wants someone random who doesn't know any affiliation with me or you. He even asked, this is what Danny Jones told me. Danny Jones was like, Neil, you swear you're not friends with Luke Gorton? He doesn't know you. You never talked to him. I said, yes, I don't know Luke Gorton. I've never talked to him.
Luke Gordon's a YouTuber. He has a YouTube channel.
I knew who he was because he was on Religion for Breakfast. And I thought, because this is what kept happening. I kept going, Danny, let me debate Ammon. Like I'll debunk him and flat out. Like it's so easy. I can just pull up all these primary sources that say Niskos is a 20-year-old basically. And I'll just pull up like 20 sources that show this. Contemporary with the Gospels. Philo does this. Galen says this. Galen says they're 20 to 29 years old.
Galen says they're like close to 40.
I know. Galen is
bad. Yeah.
But I was like, well, we'll go through the primary sources. Ammon's a source guy, right? And he was like, he doesn't want to debate you because he says you're at the brothel and you make money.
And why did he say he didn't want to debate me?
But hold on a second. But he'll debate the exorcist guy, who literally came there for a $5,000 check.
And
so that's bullshit.
Couldn't read a Greek word off of the tattoo on his head.
So then the carrier thing was about to happen, and that got all controlling on both sides. Both fell, and then finally, this one actually worked out because he found somebody who was completely in the middle of left field, who had no idea, who wasn't prodding into Ammon's work. He was basically letting Ammon throw something at me, and we'll talk about it. So that's why Niskos never got brought up. Mark 14 never got brought up. And Danny Jones kept he I don't know if he's got the brain of a goldfish, like his memory is shot or something, because we've been talking about this for years. Who gives a shit about the word Christ? Yeah. It can't mean for drugs. Everyone agrees on that.
Well, why also, who cares about the Septuagint? I mean, like,
who cares about this? We want to know. We want to know is his whole worldview, which is Jesus is a pedo at 4 a.m. extracting purple drugs from a naked kid, so that he can give himself the death inducer, and then resurrect from the other drug.
If this was supposed to be a 2-part debate, that should have been part 1.
That should have been the first thing. Yeah. And that never got talked about for 4 hours. They didn't talk about it once. You want to know why? Because Ammon knows it's bullshit. If Ammon actually brought that up in front of a classical philologist, he's going to get shut down. And now, and then we can get started after this.
Yeah.
Notice how much the goalpost has shifted from all Bible scholars don't know Greek. Any classical philologist will agree with me. Classical philologists were trained in the Greek. We're the heroes. We're the ones that are
we're the Ronin.
Greek. Yeah. And now the whole entire field of classical philology is now fallen, except for Ammon Hillman.
Yeah.
So if you're so just so you know, you're following one person.
Let's
thing.
clarify.
And
he
lies to Danny Jones's face when he says that Julius Africanus agreed with me. That's it. We're going to get to that part.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, Hillman was initially agreed to debate Richard Carrier.
Yeah.
Pulled out within 2 days.
Yeah, he's the one that pulled out, by the way, not Carrier.
He pulled out because Carrier had a debate proposal that said we are going to focus on Mark 14. Now, in hindsight,
that was it.
But in hindsight, in hindsight, what would have this been like if Luke Gorton had a debate proposal like, let's just talk about Mark 14? At the very least, they would have gotten to the topic, right? Yeah. Like this, Mark 14 never came up in this debate.
By the way, my bad. I don't mean to cut you off, but when I was talking to Danny, by the way, Danny's not even talking to me anymore. I got nasty with Danny. He's like, okay, all right. Like I don't even think we're going to be friends after this. Fine. I don't care. If you're going to be an idiot, I don't care. This is what I do. This is my worldview. This is my world. This is what I do. I care about the truth. I do. I really do. And if you're pushing bullshit, I'm going to call it out. I don't care. Anyways, when I was talking to him about a month ago, right before the debate happened, he said something very strange about the back and forths. And it was like, he said something along the lines of like, they were going to have I guess Ammon was like asking to do some sort of like translation off. Like, I'll shoot a text at you, see if you can translate it. And then I guess when Luke was like, yeah, I'm down to do that as long as I can throw one back at you, Ammon completely backed out of it. Well, so he wanted to do this one. I don't really know. That's very vague what Danny was saying about that. But Danny made it seem like Ammon was trying to control everything that they're going to talk about in the debate. And as soon as Luke brought up something, a suggestion, Ammon would back down.
But just to clarify one point. So Ammon pulled out of the debate with Richard Carrier at not the last minute, sorry, with it like immediately. He said, okay, I'll debate you. And then like 2 days later, he's like, I'm not debating you because Carrier sent him a proposal. He showed it on screen. Carrier wanted to stay focused on one thing, which is Mark 14. He said, no, I'm not going to do this unless you agree to like translate a bunch of random text on the fly. When Carrier submitted his counter proposal, like, okay, we'll talk about whatever examples you want, Ammon had already found his excuse to chicken out, right? And
yeah,
so
he was out.
He backed out. So now he's done the exact same thing for this part 2 of the Gorton debate.
And he would, if he found out that by the way, I don't know Luke. Don't know him. This is me put me up to a lie detector test right now. I don't know Luke. But he was basically pressing Luke, if you've ever associated with Neil, I will not debate you. How much of a joke is that?
But this is
that's how terrified. That's how terrified he is of me.
Well, look, you know that I don't miss any episodes of Lady Babylon, right? Like this is like a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't watch him anymore.
Yeah, I can't even do it. It makes me sick.
I watch him to gather material to respond to. And I saw that every time I watch him,
I see bullshitting lies. And whenever he lies, you notice how he moves his eyes around when he says something. and he'll say like you could tell he's lying. He reminds me of when I was back in my late teens, early 20s before I went to prison. Every fucking drug dealer and addict that I've ever dealt with, I can see it in Ammon's face. He's a soulless human being. I can see it. He's full of shit. He's all about his own ego. He's a complete egomaniac narcissist that only cares about himself and his clout. I can see it. I know it. I can tell. This dude's evil, and he's a coward. He's a coward, and he's scared to debate me.
I just want to clarify one thing.
Ammon Hillman, you're scared to debate me, coward. Ha ha.
He's scared to debate me too. But I just want to clarify one thing. So you told me that Ammon Hillman didn't want to debate Luke Gorton. Like you proposed that to Danny Jones. Danny Jones I asked you, I'm like, is he going to do it? You told me no. And when I read Richard Carrier's blog post,
my impression that he was running from it at first.
Apparently
Danny said, let me clarify though. Apparently Danny did say that he barely even brought it up to like, I guess I stand corrected that he didn't really run from Luke. He just didn't really, the proposal didn't really get to him that I guess, according to Danny.
So
I thought it did.
You told me
because I was asking Danny.
I
was asking Danny. Here, there's this guy Luke Gorton. I saw him on Religion for Breakfast. He's a current because this is what happened. I remember now. The goalposts kept shifting. First, they said he has to be a PhD, and I said, well, what about The Exorcist? He didn't have a PhD. We're like, we're changing it now, and I go, okay, Richard Carrier. That fell off. Then they said he has to be a classical philologist, and then I recommended somebody, and they were like, no. He has to be a current professor. Then I suggested Luke, and that's when finally that ball got rolling. So
so you told me that Hillman wouldn't debate him, and when I read Richard Carrier's blog, and Richard said that I'm the only, he won't debate me. I reached out to Richard and said, "Hey, Richard, he also won't debate Luke Gorton, according to Neil." Now maybe you. Gave me information that wasn't totally.
That's what I thought at the time. That's what it seemed like. Yeah,
maybe that wasn't accurate.
It actually took like a month for that to go through. So I just was going off Ammon, running from you, running from me, running from Carrie. I just kept going. He's running from everybody.
Okay, so maybe that was false.
I was shocked when Danny told me he actually accepted Luke Gorton. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. I was shocked when I heard that.
So I noticed on Lady Babylon that basically Hillman found his excuse to chicken out now, right? So now somebody has alerted him to the fact that Luke Gorton's name was in Richard Carrier's blog post, which is because of me, because I told Richard to put it in there because I'm like, you're not the only one he refused to debate. He also refused to debate Luke Gorton. So that was a rumor that you told me that maybe it wasn't true. But the fact that Richard Carrier put Luke Gorton's name in there, even though Richard doesn't know Luke Gorton. He just heard from me that he's afraid. That's all he needs. That is the excuse he needs. That's the excuse he needs to claim that Luke Gorton is.
Oh, that's allegedly... how that just shows you how terrified he is of us.
Yeah.
If you had any affiliation with me or Steven, Ammon is running like a little bitch all the way as far as he can away from that because he knows anyone who's talking to you and me are going to get. We're going to tell him, hey, Ammon thinks this about Mark 14. Hey, Ammon says this about the word neoniskos. Can you push it? Like, he's going to get destroyed. Yeah. So what did Ammon do in this debate? He controlled the discussion. He kept it about the questions of Mary. Everyone agrees that's a dirty text. But you know what he did? Notice what he did. He used that word very specifically for fellatio when it just kind of means like dirty shit. And all Luke was trying to do was confirm, was trying to be like, hey, look, hold on a second. It doesn't necessarily mean fellatio. It can. And Ammon knew that as long as he kept Luke doing that, it made it look like Luke's defending the Bible. So that's why the new narrative is Luke is defending the church. Luke's defending Jesus. And that's why when I was watching the debate, I was getting so mad. And I just kept going, why don't they just move on, dude? This text is obviously dirty. It's a 4th century text. It's a late 4th century text about heretical Christians that no one even knows about. They're barely show up in the sources. Borborites. Who the hell are the Borborites? No one even heard about these people. And so I just that's what got me mad. Ammon was masterfully keeping the discussion where he wanted it to be. None of his world, not any of Ammon's worldview got challenged. This was a waste of time, to be honest. But it was good. It was good to see Luke just kind of slam him on like so many basic shit. Like he doesn't even know how to read a lexicon. I didn't know that about the semicolon. This is like basic 101 lexicon, how to read a lexicon stuff.
Well, and also this is stuff that I addressed in my video that I released exactly 1 year ago, a little bit over a year ago, that Ammonites won't watch because it has quacking sounds in it. So
yeah.
I've spliced in a couple of sections of that will have some quacking sounds. So I'm sorry if you can't stand the quacking sounds, go listen to your guy whipping his kitchen floor. I don't know what to tell you. But let's start this.
Yep.
Because I apologize for any editing quirks here, like the fact that this video is not centered. I did this super last minute just to try to.
Yeah, we just condensed the interview so we can get it done as quick as possible.
I tried to cut it down to an hour. We
probably will
30
skip
minutes.
through a lot of it too, so we don't have to spend a whole hour and a half on it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because you know what an ischrotes is?
We talked about this, yeah.
What is it? Look it up, Steve. Yeah. Look up ischrotes.
This isn't the beginning.
Person who performs fellatio.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Is it a person who performs fellatio or not? Not necessarily. It's not really good.
All right, I have to stop. It is not a person who performs fellatio. Ischrotes, right? Ischrotes does not equal fellator. It doesn't. And if this is, I put this at the very beginning just to show Ammonites that he's going to contradict himself here.
Yeah.
This is just a slip on his behalf. Like if he were really put in the corner, he would say he misspoke here. But I just want to point out that like, I recognize this right away. And
I know, but here's the thing though. I don't want to spend too much time on this word because this whole passage is dirty as hell.
Well, they spend a bunch of time on this word.
I know, but this is the thing. We can grant
humor me.
The Questions of Mary is a text about crazy sex and drinking semen. That's who gives a shit
because escrotis is an abstract noun that refers to bad things. It's not referring to a person.
I know. I get it. I know what Luke was doing. Luke was saying, look, your translation is not a one-to-one word. Like this doesn't actually mean fellatio. It can be used as any dirty act. And because of the way he said it, the Ammonites read that as, oh, he's denying that this is something dirty going on, which is not what was happening at all.
He was overly defensive about it. But I just want to point out here that escrotis, and I say escrotis, is not a fellator. That's not what it means.
It's a person who performs fellatio. It's a person who performs fellatio. It's a person who performs fellatio.
It's not a person.
Can it be more than that?
Can it be other things?
You want to translate that? I don't care.
Is that also somebody who performs fellatio as well as other things?
Okay, let me talk about this a little bit because I think it would help to kind of make an analogy so that we're all sort of on the same page methodologically. All right. Okay. So from now on, when I say pulling a Dick Nixon, and I think I'm going to have to say it multiple times, what I'm referring to is pointing out a word that could be dirty.
Does this sound a little weird? Is it just me? It sounds like there's like a huge echo going on.
Type echo in the chat if you hear an echo. I hope.
Are you guys hearing an echo?
But it is playing at 1.5 speed that I baked into the video, so as long as it's like it's 1.5 speed.
Thing,
yes,
but it might not.
It might mean some fellatio here, Ryan. It could mean fellatio here, Ryan. It could mean fellatio here, Ryan.
So he started by saying it refers to a person who performs fellatio, and now he's going to it's referring to fellatio.
Why are you slowing him down talking? What's that about?
I just want to emphasize the fact that he started out by saying it's a person who performs fellatio, and then he switched to saying it refers to fellatio.
Yeah,
it is an abstract noun. So even if it can refer to fellatio, it cannot refer to a person performing fellatio. It is an abstract noun. That's all I want to mention right here is that he made a boo-boo.
I know.
He messed up.
But this what bothered me so much, and I don't want to do the same thing, is that everyone, even Bart Ehrman wrote an article about the Questions of Mary and how dirty it is. No one is saying, not a single scholar is saying Questions of Mary isn't about sex and a dirty Eucharist using semen. No one is saying that it's not doing that. So
but he managed to get Luke Gorton.
If we argue over the word fellatio, Ammonites are too dumb to realize.
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing about the word fellatio.
But they think that we're arguing that this text isn't dirty. It is dirty.
No, what I'm arguing is that this is a debate review. So in terms of the debate, he managed to put Luke Gorton on the back foot and defend a text that he hasn't analyzed in advance.
That's why I'm trying to tell the audience it was a waste of time. It really was.
So basically, everything that he's saying here is false. He is making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake.
Yeah.
Luke Gorton is calling him out on it on linguistic terms.
Right.
But it makes him look weak because he's defending a text that he shouldn't be defending. He should just say, yes, this is a very perverted text. Can we move on now to Mark 14?
Exactly.
That's what should have happened.
He should have said, all right, if you want to translate it as fellatio, be my guest. I would probably be a little bit more strict on that definition or on that translation. And then that's it. But hold on a second. Is it not true that there are hundreds of translations in the Loeb library where people take their own liberty to translate words a little bit like they take a little bit of liberty and they might do something like this where they might translate this as fellatio. It happens all the time in Greek translation.
But here's the thing. If you're Ammon Hillman and you're a classicist and you have a PhD, you know that 99% of any classicist that you just put in front of you and you ask this question to, does escrotis refer to fellatio? If they're competent and if they know how to use it, they're going to say no. So then he's going to point you, but he's going to be, well, what about in this text? And it's like, as long as that text describes fellatio, he's going to look like he's superior to every other classicist on the planet because every other classicist on the planet is going to say the truth. No, it doesn't mean fellatio because that's just a fact. It's a brute fact. It doesn't mean that.
Yeah. And
so this is how he wins.
But notice how you get comments like this. I'm confused at what the grievance is here. The grievance is he's wrong about this word equaling fellatio. We're not defending the text as, oh, it's not that dirty, nothing you see here. Everyone and their mother who's learned a little bit about the early Christians knows about the greater questions of Mary. This is not some crazy hidden text. I talked about it when I was on Danny Jones.
By the way, Mandy just typed.
Hold on, let me finish this. All I'm saying is he's wrong about this one word, and Luke should have just gave a quick little rebuttal and moved on. They spent way too much time on it. That's my grievance.
And Mandy just typed the word heuristics in the chat, and he is exactly right. This is heuristics. This is Hillman using a shady debate tactic to score points with falsehoods. He is not telling the truth. He is lying to score a point. That's all. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to use fellatio in that context?
Okay, so since it means dirty deeds.
I see it.
Oh, by the way, can you bring that up? Yeah, so this is actually methodologically. Yeah, so this was from your short. You sent this to me a few weeks ago. Since you brought it up, let's bring it up now.
Steve, LSJ.
Yeah, LSJ.
Okay.
It was Ice Crew, right? Yeah.
Is it just me, man, or is something sounding really?
It's because I sped it up 1.5 in Adobe Premiere Pro.
But it does sound like it's like an echo or something.
It's because I used the preserve tone, so they didn't sound like Smurfs when they talk. It puts a layer of distortion on the audio, and I apologize.
Okay, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Now this is iskrotes, right? And all of this is using the beautiful, glorious Greek root.
No, we can skip past this. We got this,
right? That row is hanging on there. Can come off.
Do you want to just touch on the pause? Do you want to just touch on the I don't care about this word anymore. I don't care about this word anymore. Do you want to just touch on the semicolon real quick? Because we're just going to do the same thing they did for 40 hours on the same word.
No, we're getting to it. We're getting to it. We're getting to it. Will you let me play it, please?
All right, go ahead. Still got an hour and a half.
Just awful. Okay. Look, it's in his hand. The iskrotes. So iskrotia is the working of this shameful thing.
Committing
yes, right? Exactly.
It's filthy conduct.
And you notice it's a euphemism for fellatio, right?
Yeah, but why is it? So I'm curious. Why is it? So they're associating filthy conduct with fellatio.
Yeah, because these are Victorians, right?
Okay, so this is something now for the listeners. The three of us have had a text discussion or a text thread for the past few months.
Yes.
Ammon sent this to the thread a few weeks ago, and I pointed out at the time that semicolon is very important. Right after Ephesians 5:4, there's a semicolon. Ammon, what does that semicolon mean to you?
You surprised me. As a Greek reader, it means nothing to me.
Well, that's a problem. It means something very important.
It's an and as an English reader, and it's a euphemism, as you see from the scholiast.
Did you have a comment about this?
Well, that like my question is, and I'm this is what I got from Luke. That semicolon matters, and this is a systematic thing for the entire lexicon.
Yeah.
Whenever you see that semicolon, it's separating sources from each other.
Yes, exactly.
So you can't just say, oh, I don't care what that is. If you say, I don't care what that is, you're admitting to other classicists that you don't know how to read a lexicon.
Or you don't care how to read it. It's one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. Ammon, and I was getting taught this by Ammon 3 years ago, that I used to think you can go to a lexicon like a buffet and you can do your research by going, oh, look at this word means this. Oh, look at in a lexicon. Oh, it says that word. Oh, I can translate this. And that's how you can just like kind of do your research. And that's just totally insane because context is always going to be king. You can't just translate things how you want to translate it because another text used that word in a certain way. But you get my point.
Yeah. So I've embedded a little explanation in here for everybody from my video from last year. It's been on the record for a year. Nobody has pushed back on it.
Aristophanes, right?
Sorry, Aristophanes frogs.
Frogs,
right?
1308.
Yep, we agree with
and
that.
then they refer to you the general term iskrosune, right? Which Tzitzis is going to talk about.
Sure.
It is kind of cute that he says tzitzis. It's actually zetzis because it's an epsilon.
Yeah, he said it in a modern way.
No, he didn't. He just mispronounced it because modern Greek pronounces epsilon like and not tzi. But he thinks it's spelled. I don't know. He says tzitzis, and that's kind of cute.
But that sounds more modern than anything.
Tzitzis is Byzantine.
All right, to you, what does that colon mean?
It's separating two different things that are pretty different here. Okay, so specifically, it's separating two places in which this word iskrotes has been used by two different authors at two different times and places.
He's exactly
Before
right.
the semicolon, what we see is filthy conduct, epistle to the Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 4.
Yes.
Okay. And in that use, and we can go look at that if you want, but I don't think this is particularly controversial. The author of Ephesians is simply saying, don't engage in iskrotes, right? He doesn't define it. Because I think he's being vague.
Yeah.
I don't think he necessarily has one particular dirty thing in mind when he says that.
Aselgeia.
I don't
It's
think he
only
does.
aselgeia.
It could be sexual.
Yes,
okay, so I think when he has dirty things in mind in Ephesians, sexual stuff is part of it. All right, but he's not narrowing down the sexual stuff.
Yeah,
Do you agree with that? He doesn't just mean one particular sexual thing.
No, he does because he calls it idolatria. It is the act itself of engaging in these dirty mysteries.
Do you have any idea why he said idolatria there?
Because he's gaslighting his audience.
Yeah, he just wanted to throw out a random word.
He's throwing in a random word from a different part of Paul. And idolatry. What does that have to do with the passage about iskrotes? Nothing.
But he thinks that idolatry is a sexual thing.
Ammonite, the average Ammonite just thought that was some point that he made. They don't know what he just said.
Yeah.
But you and I are looking at him going, what are you talking about? Because Ammon knows that he's not doing this for you and me. He's not trying to convince you and me that he's right. He's trying to look confident in front of Danny Jones so he can, get his fingers up in his, that's what he's doing.
Well, and it feels to me like what Luke Gorton is doing is he's phoning it in. He's sitting back with his arms crossed and waiting for Ammon to make mistakes and just calling him out. He didn't call him out on this one, but he basically dog walks him. But nobody can tell the difference. Like nobody understands exactly what this is a very high level discussion, unfortunately.
And watch, you know what you're gonna get tomorrow or the next couple of days. You're gonna get a video from either this guy right here. Wait, either this guy right here or what's the other guy's name?
Seaman.
Seaman is all over, and they're just going to repeat exactly what you just heard there, not even knowing what that means or what's going on, and they're just going to repeat it. And then when I ask them, hey, come on my channel. What you just said made no sense. It's nonsense. You're an idiot. Come on my channel and let's go through this. Let's have a discussion. Nope, they don't want to do it. LH did not. LH turned down to come on here because he's a fraud. Because he's either if he's intelligent at all, he's a fraud. If he's really dumb, then he just is really dumb. Then I kind of feel bad for him. But if he actually knows what he's talking about, he's a fraud, and he's like a cockroach that's basically coming in at the after party. After all the food and liquor and semen is all over the front, he's a little cockroach coming to pick up the scraps off the floor that Danny Jones and Ammon Hillman left over so they can get a little bit of clout on the internet so we can get 200, 400 views because it never gets any views anyway. That's what these little channels like semen is all over do. They're just like, oh, they finally got a little bit of 50 likes and a couple of comments and they're like, oh my God, little cockroaches, little clout cockroaches. And they're full of shit. They're either really dumb or full of shit.
All right, so let's keep going.
where they are eating cum.
Let me go back to the semicolon. All right. Okay. So then
he said
the next
idol
use of
worship
this is centuries
he said that means they're eating cum. Okay.
later. I'm actually not sure what century the scholiast to Aristophanes' frogs is. I want to say like 11th or 12th century. It's over 1,000 years after Aristophanes.
Now look at number 2. Die. And the source.
This is from the original interview where he did the exact same thing, skipping over semicolons.
There's Theophrastus.
Die of blood.
Yeah, that's the source. There is Theophrastus, and it's the Historia Plantarum. He was a student of Aristotle, and he's the first botanist. He's considered he wasn't the first botanist, but he was considered to be the father of botany. And if you look at the word that follows Theophrastus, it's porphyra, which is just the word we got out of Herculaneum, and it says porphyra bathe. The baptism is a baptism into the purple. They're kindergarten. They don't understand how to use a lexicon. All
right.
When analyzing any LSJ
Go back to that. Now, it's funny. He doesn't actually know how to use a lexicon, or he does, and he just doesn't care.
Yeah, it's a menu. It's like a buffet menu for him. He can just grab that.
He thinks this is all one. They're all saying this is whatever. Whenever this word is used, you can just pick whichever way you want to define it. This is how lexicons work. It's not.
Yeah.
Lexicon is showing specific sources on how that specific source used the word.
And there are people in the chat right now who are denying this reality, and it's simply like the Earth is round, dude. I'm sorry, like this is just.
Oh yeah,
it works.
I do compare them to flat earthers in that regard.
Well, okay, so
all I have plastics have fallen except for Ammon Hillman.
So this is the explanation that I published over a year ago for anybody who wants to actually educate themselves.
Herculaneum. And it says porphyra bathe. The baptism is a baptism
wrong
into
source.
the purple. They're kindergarten. They don't understand how to use a lexicon.
When analyzing any LSJ reference, it's important to pay attention to how the entry is structured. Semicolons are what separate different meanings under a general category. We can reformat the LSJ entry by breaking out separate lines for each individual meaning using the semicolons as a delimiter. And here we can easily isolate each individual meaning and the reference where that meaning is used according to the lexicographer. And here we can see which authors are using the term listis to refer to piracy, and which authors are using the term listis in the metaphorical sense. If we look at the LSJ entry for Vafi, we can also break it out into different lines using the semicolons as delimiters. The semicolons show us where the boundaries are being divided by the lexicographer. Here we can see the split in definition 2 between the usage in Theophrastus and the usage in Aeschylus. If you actually drill down into the example, porphyra vafi is being used by Aeschylus on the right side of the semicolon. That is not the way Theophrastus is using it on the left side of the semicolon. Anyone with rudimentary skills in using a lexicon will easily be able to spot which definition pertains to which author. Both of these examples are referring to purple dye. That is what vafi means in these contexts. It is referring to dye. This is what the LSJ entry looks like when you break things out into individual lines. And here we see a clear divide between the example in Theophrastus and the example in Aeschylus. In Aeschylus, porphyra vafi is a metaphor for blood. The reference to dye in Aeschylus has nothing to do with baptism. It refers to purple dye. The reference in Theophrastus also refers to purple dye. There are many, many references to purple in Galen, and none of them refer to the burning purple. They refer to purple dye, or marine purple. Galen makes several references to burnt shells using the aorist passive participle. There are many such references to burnt oysters, purple dyes, and shells.
We didn't leave the cult. We're still in the cult. Baptists, you know what Baptists carry? They carry
drugs.
Yeah, they carry drugs. Everybody's carrying drugs.
There is the use of this word iskrotes in this play by Aristophanes. In the play by Aristophanes, the author doesn't explain what he means by iskrotes, but this later commentator.
So sorry for the PSA, everybody. That was just a little education. If you still like people in the comments are still going to are going to continue saying that semicolons aren't real. Like this is like semicolon gate.
That's how the lexicon. That's how the lexicon is written.
I'm sorry.
Like, you're just denying the reality of how to read a lexicon. 101 shit.
I've been using LSJ every day for about 10 years. Every day. I use LSJ every day because unlike the rumors like that I only know a little more on Greek, I actually read ancient Greek and I don't understand.
I actually think that Ammon knows this though.
He does. He does.
I don't think he cares. He's going for how to convince people more than how to teach them. He's not trying to teach people like the truth. He's trying to convince people that like he's some maverick, that all the scholars are wrong except for him. He's completely like a flat earth scholar. I'm looking for this one screenshot. Okay, I can't find it right now. Maybe I can find it. I'm gonna definitely have it for my video. There was an Ammonite. His name was Jeff from the Empire, and I'm giving you a shout out. This guy on Twitter. I'm just I got so tired of him that he was so dumb. He was so fried. He came to me talking about the burning purple. And I said to him, burning purple, the quote unquote text burning purple does not exist in any single primary source from antiquity ever. And I said there's only one source from Dioscorides where he uses the term purple when burnt. It's not active. And I said, if you can provide me one single primary source that mentions burning purple in some sort of cultic use, I will. And I forgot what I said. I said like I'll apologize to Ammon or something. He comes back like a week later. I'm not kidding. You can see the post. It's like a week later, 7 days later. I found the source. You know what? I'm not kidding. You know what this Ammonite brought me?
Some
Dioscorides.
Oh,
he brought me Dioscorides. I literally just told him, all you have is Dioscorides, and he says purple. And you know what he says to me? I found the source. I got it from Ammon. He's like, you're so Dunning-Kruger. It's right here. He called me Dunning-Kruger. And then he showed me the source. It's Dioscorides. And I go, can you read what I wrote to you again? And I highlighted it. And he just didn't. But it was the level of stupidity that you deal with people who follow Ammon is incredible. It's incredible. But it gets to the point where it's a waste of time, where I don't even think it's not even doing anything positive to engage. So it's almost, I'm starting to block people now. If I can see that they're actually like somewhat intelligent and actually being good faith and trying to have a discussion like we will with Chase and with Tiger Shark, I'll engage with those people all day. I like that there's nothing wrong with people like that. I'm not talking about them, but there's the online commenters who are just so bad faith, I don't even know if there's active brain, if they're bots or not. Like Jeff from the Empire, I legitimately thought he was a bot for a while. Like just some bot. I don't even know how bots are. Anyways, let's continue.
So the thing I have right now is just, again, this is just LSJ, right? The reason why LSJ is not written like this, where all of the different attestations are on separate lines, is because if it printed the text like that, LSJ would be like 5 volumes this thick, right? They need to compress the lexicon entry somehow, and they do it through semicolons. So it doesn't necessarily it didn't have to be a semicolon. They could have done it with slashes. They could have done that, okay, before the slash, they're saying that the Epistle of the Ephesians is using this in the sense of filthy conduct. And then they need to somehow put a symbol in between these two examples to separate the euphemism for fellatio, which is explicitly what the Scholia on Aristophanes' frogs says. However, I need to note that Luke Gorton made a mistake here, because the term escrotis does not occur in Aristophanes. It occurs in the Scholion. And so his explanation here is something he improvised, like he's just sort of thinking of this on the fly. I can't really fault him for not looking up the source in advance, but this is a problem. This is what happens when you phone it in and you don't prepare for
it's a 4-hour podcast, so it's not. We're not going to spend time.
There is the use of this word "escrotes" in this play by Aristophanes.
We don't got that much time to worry about this word.
Okay, but just to clear, escrotes is not in Aristophanes. He doesn't use this.
Okay,
word.
that's
in
fine.
the play by Aristophanes. The author doesn't explain what he means by escrotes.
You want to skip past the
but this later commentator from literally a millennium and a half after Aristophanes wrote this, he says, "I think it means fellatio."
Okay.
So what he's doing here is he's saying that Ammon doesn't have the license to take a 12th century commentator, use that to interpret Aristophanes in the classical period in order to interpret a 4th century Christian hit piece against heretics. That's basically what he's doing. But there's no need to attack John Tzetzes, who's actually making a good point about Aristophanes. Tzetzes is not in the loop here, and Ammon is bringing him into the loop because he's misreading the LSJ, probably intentionally.
The same way he misreads Hesychius' lexicon when he's using adjectives. Okay, let's get past the
that
word.
Doesn't mean he's wrong, but that doesn't mean he's
word.
right. That's the opinion of someone from a millennium and a half later.
You still got way too much time left.
Some later, literally random dude who never was part of that culture at all speaks and reads Greek, but from a much later period. That's what he thinks.
I think you're underemphasizing.
Go ahead.
Is that not true?
Okay, I'll skip this, but just to be clear, but I want to make something clear. I agree with Ammon here. Ammon's right. Luke Gorton should give more credit to Tzetzes for introducing a very viable interpretation of Aristophanes that is mainstream. That when Aristophanes uses the verb epivatevo, he is actually using a sexual innuendo there. Tzetzes figured that out. The LSJ corroborates it. And Ammon is right, and Gorton is being too defensive.
That's
for
what
no
I
reason.
said. I said he should have just gave us okay. The word could mean that. Sure, move on.
Okay.
I spent way too much time, and that's why I don't want to spend too much time. The text. The point is to sum this all up. The Greater Questions of Mary is one of the dirtiest texts of. Here, let me just while you're skipping ahead. I just want to show some. I just want to show someone. I just want to show something real quick on my channel that I've done, and I guess I'm going to do a quick little plug of my own videos, because a while ago I made a video. Actually, let me back up. Let me share my screen. A while ago I made a documentary called "Removed from Church History: Mystics Who Shaped Christianity." 1 year ago. Ready? Right off the bat. This is what I say right off the bat. I just want people to realize, like, we've been talking about this on my channel, on Myth Vision, on all types of channels.
What if I told you that by becoming
no one's like hiding this.
Democratic Party?
According to Saint Epiphanius, the following passage is from a lost gospel called The Greater Questions of Mary. Jesus took Mary Magdalene aside and brought her to the top of the mountain. Praying, he produced a woman from his side.
This is my own translation, by the way.
He began to have sex with her. Then, partaking of his emission, he says, "Eat my flesh and drink my blood. Thus we must do, that we may live." And when Mary was alarmed, she fell to the ground. He raised her up and said to her, "O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt?" And they say that this is the meaning of the gospel. If I have told you earthly things and you believe not, how shall you believe in the heavenly things? And so, when you see the Son of Man ascending up where he was before, in other words, when you see the emission being partaken of it where it came, and then Christ said, "Except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, one cannot enter the kingdom of heaven." Jesus was asking Mary to drink his semen, and the disciples were disturbed and replied, "Who can hear this?" They were saying this about Jesus' Eucharist, Jesus' load.
Jesus' load.
I mean, the thing you didn't address there, though, is the fact that they were also using menstrual blood.
Yeah, that later in the video I talk about that too. And look, I'm just trying to show you this is all over the place. Every Bible scholar knows about this text. No one's hiding it from anyone.
But
actually, I'm the one who told Ammon about this.
But he managed to catch Luke off guard, who clearly hadn't read it and was being defensive about it for no reason.
Most classicists aren't. This is like a Bible scholar.
Yeah, this isn't a classical text. This is
it's not in Loeb. It's not in Loeb.
So rather than talk about his mistranslation of Aeschylus, which I have a little bit later, his mistranslation of Euripides, they could have talked about that, but they didn't.
Look at this. Look at these. Go fuck yourself. When this fucking guy makes up AI images of me and you and Luke and calls us the fucking the brothel, you can go fuck yourself, idiot. I don't care. It's open fucking season at this point. So, and I just want to time someone out. I never time people out. I don't do it to him. There was one person who said something. We're gonna get to this. Bro's hating hard about the Phoenician text Gorton tried to play off as Hebrew. Y'all are sad. Hail Satan. It's not a Phoenician text. They call it Paleo Hebrew, but it's really Hebrew. It's the closest thing you're going to get to Hebrew. And look, I'm very clear about this text. When it comes to the Ketef Hinnom scrolls, there are people who want to push it as a biblical scroll because it's so close to what's in Numbers. I don't say that. But I will say, whoever wrote the biblical text of Numbers was drawing from the same source of priestly blessings that we get in the Ketef Hinnom scrolls. That's how we know this is a Hebrew scroll. So you guys can just deny reality and pretend that there's no Hebrew inscriptions anywhere. You're wrong. There are Hebrew inscriptions all throughout Judea. We're going to get to that in a little bit. I'm going to pull up some examples of that. You guys think that Hebrew was just invented in thin air. It's not. Now, there's two different things happening. Scholars who say that the Hebrew Bible is a Hellenistic text. That's a growing argument that's out there. What no one is saying is that Hebrew as a language was invented in the Hellenistic period. Those are two different things. Those are two different worlds apart from each other. So if anyone wants to say, Neil, you've been saying this forever. No, I've been saying that the Hebrew Bible was composed and finished at the late Persian Hellenistic period. I've been saying that since I met Gmerkin, actually, and he convinced me. And then Barnea and Adler and others who came along and confirmed that and really strengthened my thoughts on that. But I've never, ever, ever, ever said that Hebrew was invented out of thin air. Like a Semitic language that happens to look just like Aramaic and Phoenician just got invented by Greeks.
But I also pulled parts. I mean, if we get to it, I have sound bites of Ammon saying that he doesn't think Hebrew was invented either. Like it's like
he's all over the place.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to the Aporoyan. He took the offerings. Right? What is that?
It's exactly what he says.
His own offerings.
Yeah.
His effluescence. His effluescence, right?
Yeah, sure, it's vague though.
Right.
And it's not vague. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. Yeah.
Also contextually.
No, I know. I disagree with Luke here. Let me just be. We're going to be fair. We're going to be fair. I think Ammon's right, and the mission there is semen.
I don't think he's
right.
I
Luke
know
got caught off guard. Yeah, he's right. That was semen. That's why I said, why the fuck did Ammon knew what he was doing there. He knew that if he kept the ball in that court, that he wouldn't have to deal with Niskos because he'll get debunked on that. He won't have to deal with the purple and all this other bullshit that he makes up from thin air. He can keep this sort of like I can just keep throwing this text out there and see how much he'll defend it. It was a bad look. For that part was bad on Luke.
Yeah.
But I get what he was doing.
Well, and there are parts where the aporeon it does refer to the mixture of semen and blood, but so it's like he's trying to just argue that this is vague because he's not really.
I don't know why he was doing that. Yeah, I don't know why he was doing that.
So, right.
Context matters.
Right. Spermatophages. Right. He's been talking about it. So
he's been talking about
of why these people were doing what they did.
And I'm forced to just agree with Ammon here. Yes, this is what he's talking about. This is the context. And Luke just doesn't have the context because he's not sitting down and working through the text because it wasn't. They didn't plan on this. Evidently.
I do want. Yeah, it's 50 minutes in now. We're still on the same Mary text. I didn't want to spend that much time on it, so let's keep going.
Okay. Let's
look
at this. Let's do the Haima thing.
Okay, fine.
The semen. Right? This is how they justify it. Jesus said, eat my blood and flesh. That blood is his Haima, his excrementa, his semen.
Well, Haima and semen are two different words, right?
Originally, Haima is what? An essence. It's a bodily essence, right?
Yeah. Blood.
Right?
Yeah.
It's blood.
Blood.
It's blood.
Okay, it's just blood. No, it's not just blood.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you this will help you.
When I first heard this, I thought Ammon was just saying what everyone. I thought this was like a thing because he made it. I remember one day he told me the word Haima can also be used for semen.
I had to convince you that was not true.
I'm thinking this is something nobody would just make up. Like this guy is a decent enough Greek guy. I took lessons with him. He knows the different. He knows like the definite articles and the pronouns. And he knows basic Greek. He's teaching me basic Greek. For him to just lie to my face about this, I didn't. I'm like, no. And so when you said that to me, you're like, oh, Haima's never used for semen. I go, are you sure? Never? I go, are you sure that? Because I mean, like even today, we think of semen as sort of like. It's kind of like blood, it's semen, like, the life force, right? I can see where he was going with it. And then I looked up, and then I went to TLG, and I went to every single Haima reference I can find to see if it ever was used for semen. Never. Not one time. I was actually surprised on that.
Well, this is what I don't understand, though. I don't understand why Hillman opened himself up to this line of attack, unless it's because, like, I expect that Hillman is smart enough to know that he's going to get pushback on this, because the very next day when Danny Jones asked him about this in the after show, he said, this is not common knowledge, or he said, this isn't something that other classicists have discovered. This is my own personal discovery. So he does have some kind of self-awareness to know that if he says this in front of a qualified individual who knows Greek, he's going to get called out on it. But he knows that after that, he can go back to his followers, just sort of pretend that he knows this is true because he's been doing it for 30 years, and then accuse
it's
Luke
gaslighting.
Of, it's gaslighting.
That's what it is. It's just pure gaslighting.
And so, but Luke is 100% correct.
Ancient Greek physicians, and you know this, thought that semen was a highly concocted form of blood.
Whoa.
They did. That's what they thought. They thought that
highly concocted
form of blood. So what they thought is that your blood if you produce semen, your blood goes through your brain and it picks up thought and air bubbles and spiritual essence, which is why it's white, by the way. And that's where it comes from.
It's a question of essence. You and I can sit and debate about what the earliest references to Hymen. Can this be?
So here's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But in what the Christian author here is saying is this is what these people.
Sure, he's reporting.
Yeah, he's reporting it, and
he's Orthodox. So he doesn't agree with it.
Yeah. So he you can tell he just retracted a little bit, right? Like he just said, "Well, we could argue about it, but I'm not gonna force the issue."
Yeah, that's why I don't. That's why this part's not a big deal to me. It's just a little bit of a.
But again,
correction.
Yeah,
he got corrected. It's fine.
He got corrected, but
that was fair. Yeah.
He says that if you go back to the earliest source, that you can find it. I'm sorry, the earliest source is Homer. And Homer uses
they're right. He threw in a little gaslight for his audience real quick. And notice how he did it really subtle. You and I can go back to the earlier sources, but anyways, let's move on. And it was like, if Luke would have been like, well, what source is that? You know how bad that would have looked? He would have been like, well, I don't have a source. And that happens a lot in this debate where Ammon will say something, and I thought to myself, why didn't Luke just ask him to show? For example, Lama Sabachthani. When Ammon kept saying, I know this is from the Greek magical papyri, Luke should have said, pull it up then. Let's look at it, because it's not in the Greek magical papyri. There's a word that looks similar, sabakar, then there's kathon is in there, and then sabakar is in another place. They're never together. Sabachthani is never it doesn't exist. It's an Aramaic word from the book of Psalms, which we're going to get to.
Yeah.
So I wish there was a couple times when Ammon would say something, and I wish Luke would have said, "Pull it up, then. Let's all learn from Ammon right now." And that didn't happen. There's like 10 times where that could have happened.
And if you do pull it up, what you're going to find is that there are two kinds of bodily emissions that Epiphanius is describing as escrotis, obscene conduct, right? There's aporoias, right, discharge, and there is menstrual blood. And here the word blood isn't used, it's implied, right? So it's eminion. But if you continue this, you can always see he's talking about emissions that consist of semen and menstrual blood, right? And then later on, he actually refers to it as blood. And there's no way that he can actually be meaning semen in this context with, like, Hyma doesn't mean semen here. It just doesn't, because he's continually contrasting the two things that are being used as emissions. Like, it doesn't work, but he's claiming it because he just doesn't care. You can see, eat my flesh, which is the semen, and then drink my blood, which is menstrual blood, right? The blood is not the semen here. They're just like, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't work. It's false. Like most of everything he's saying here. Sorry, let me get back to it.
I'm going to have the other people join in about 45 minutes.
Okay.
What? Yeah, 45. Okay.
Sorry. All right. So
and they can join while we're still doing this.
Yeah. We can watch. We can do it live. Yeah. Keep it up.
And do you see how the training is different?
Yeah.
Okay. So notice. Go back 1 second. He's saying, like, he's praising Luke. This is from the end of the debate.
That's why I say I can spot it.
Yep.
I can spot it.
100%.
I can't. I want to thank you for bringing that force.
Yes.
And Luke, thank you for engaging. It's been a long battle for me to get somebody with training to be able to sit here and talk to. And I know you don't think that Jesus was
wait,
arrested in a public park.
Give me 10 seconds.
It'll come. Yeah. And in this section, he's talking about ice cookie.
Sorry. That I just wanted to slice in. Yeah.
Notice how he went from going, I can see it, this guy's good, he knows what he's doing, he's a good philologist, to once it sank into him as the days went by before the debate went out, and then days kept going through and he kept thinking about it, and then he started to hate Luke more and more, and now Luke's incompetent, now Luke's fallen, now Luke's not trained well. Notice how this shift. He's such a liar.
Now, okay. Let's play devil's advocate. Let's say somebody's saying, well, he's just really polite and doesn't want to offend him to his face, right? So what does he say about Luke 24 hours later, one-on-one with Danny Jones when Luke's not there, and he could totally start talking shit about
him? Luke is a professional. He's a classicist, bro. And I respect that. And he worked with some masters. I know that through my master. He worked with some masters.
Pause.
I know there.
Pause. No, just hear how this is one day later. He's praising Luke up and down, and then what happened? What happened, Ammon? Why all of a sudden a week later you changed your mind?
Because
he's not a master anymore.
Because he found Luke's name in Richard Carrier's blog that was published September 1st.
What is that? Does that change if he was good or not? Somehow it does. That's how you know he's full of shit. That's how you know he's a complete ideologue. Because all of a sudden you went from saying that this guy was good, he did great, to all of a sudden saying he's a fallen agent of the church, whatever the hell it was. I don't know. You could just see the fucking bullshit.
Well, and again, this is 24 hours later. Luke is already on his flight home, right? Like he could say whatever he wants about how incompetent he is, because that's all he's saying now. Luke is now incompetent, according to Ammon. And then this
clip, he's very competent and he's very good. He's a master. I can tell he's a master. He trained my other master. Like whatever the bullshit he's saying.
So will you give me 5 minutes to play something that is just my own pet peeve, because it involves Aeschylus, and I really, really resent this particular lie that he told about Aeschylus.
Is it in the Danny Jones?
It's right here. I'm about to play it. Just give me 5 minutes.
There is a description. When the city is in mourning in Aeschylus, they use this medicine as pitch, and they put this on the torches and they burn it. They put it on altars and they burn it. It's for the mood of the people who are in mourning at sudden news of great loss, like the loss of all your relatives, all your family members in a war, right? What do? You medicate the people, and they bring out this. Isn't that lovely? Oh God. Now I'm going to give you my translation, which is going to differ from modern, or at least classically important translations, and I'll show you. One of them is by Browning. Here's the Browning translation. Yeah, and here and there, heaven high, the torch uplifts, flame medicated with persuasions mild, with foul admixture unbeguiled of holy unguent, from the clouded chrism, brought from the palace, safe in its abysm. By the way, Robert Browning made up that word, right? Which is something, he did. She was looking at me like, are you kidding? No, he had to find something to rhyme chrism, right? So he just made it up. But I'm going to give you my translation, right? So, here and there, this very tall Amazonian, what is she doing? She's waving her torches, because these are night rites that the priesthoods are involved in, right? You realize, right? We caught her right in the act of the rites. And what is she? Look at that fourth line down. Pharmasomene. Covered with drugs, under the influence of drugs. What kind of drugs? The royal drug that comes from her innermost recesses. The holy Christing. Powered by that painkiller that causes us.
Wait, pause it.
Do you understand? You see what's going on here?
Yeah, I think I know why people don't like the quack so much, because it's just your word versus his. You can't just say he's wrong. So, okay, let me try to understand what you're doing here. Is he I see the word crematos and pharmakusomene, and then angu. Is he saying that word angu is holy?
It does mean holy, but what he's saying is that pharmasomene is an adjective that is describing Clytemnestra. And he knows that this isn't true, because you could see in the first video with Danny Jones, he recounts this episode correctly. He describes it correctly. So LSJ is showing that the word medicated, farmaso, that it is referring to basically, it means that the flame itself is being fueled by this unguent, right? And instead of saying that the flame is fueled, it's saying metaphorically that the flame is medicated. Now, when he is in his echo chamber and is not accountable for anything he does, he mistranslates it because he wants it to be basically that Clytemnestra is covered in drugs, under the influence of drugs, with drugs flowing from her innermost essence, because he wants to sort of twist that text to fit his narrative of the production of drugs from her vagina.
Yeah.
But he knows that that's false and not true. He reads Browning's translation. He explicitly tells his audience that, like, my translation is going to be a little different. So basically, in all of these other classically important translations, it is the flame, the lambas, the torch, right? The lambas is pharmasomeni. And you can see that there's only one word separating them, because lambas is the antecedent of pharmasomeni. Clytemnestra is nowhere.
The lambas is in the nominative case.
Exactly.
The thing that's medicated is the thing in the nominative case. Basic Greek 101, guys.
Lambas,
every Ammonite who's taking Greek lessons should know this.
Yes, and that's the thing. He knows it. But when I produced this video, I actually thought that he was just like, I thought he may just be stupid. I now think clearly he knows how to read this properly. He's just having fun with his audience because he knows, like, he thinks his audience is dumb.
That's what I don't understand, because the ones that are paying him for Greek lessons on a weekly basis, because after I got a little bit of, like, a little couple, started learning how to do nouns and verbs, I started to see the cracks in him. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to move on to a more serious teacher. Well, what are they? Maybe they just don't care. Maybe they're just having fun. Now, I know most of the people that you see, like, in the comment section, just don't know any Greek at all. Because you can just, like, test them, like the Jeff from the Empire dude. They can just ask him a question and you can see he doesn't know anything. He doesn't even barely even knows the alphabet, maybe. But it makes you wonder, the ones that are actually really trying to learn Greek, when they see him, like, slipping up on these basic things, what do they think? But like even when he was doing, remember he did his own class live and he was missing the stress marks.
Oh, that's fine. I'm
just saying, when I'm not saying if you miss the stress marks, that's bad. People do it all the time. I do it all the time. I just did it when I said lampas. It's lampas. Yeah. But if you're doing a lesson on accents, you better get the accents right. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead.
So, I just want to mention that, like, a lot of people that tell me, oh, I don't even need to watch your 5-hour video to know that you couldn't possibly debunk anything Ammon says. He just debunked himself. If you just watch this for the last 5 minutes, Ammon debunked himself. Yeah. He told it to Danny Jones, more or less exactly how it's written. He told Danny Jones that the flame is literally medicated with drugs that get people high, like a contact high. That's a fair enough interpretation, but pharmasomeni is not, Clytemnestra is not the antecedent, and I'm going to show it to you guys here.
She is covered with the drugs.
Yeah.
She is Christing. She is Christing. What is that pharmos? So I just want you to be in there. I want you to be in there and realize it means treat by using pharmaca, generally treat, right? And it talks about Homer. So it goes all the way back to Homer. We got to connect it with methu, which is where we get drunken or intoxicated. And it means number 2, to enchant or bewitch by potions or filters. Now remember, when they say enchant or bewitch, they've taken you into the back alley, right? That enchantment is a change to your mental state. And remember what these people like Clytemnestra are doing. They're putting the purple in their hair.
Hillman's blatant mistranslation of Aeschylus should give anyone pause if they take him seriously as a classicist. Here his translation is describing Clytemnestra as being covered with drugs and under the influence of drugs. Hillman insinuates that the antecedent of the adjective pharmasomeni is Clytemnestra, and his translation reflects this. He says that Clytemnestra is covered with drugs, under the influence of drugs. That is not the case. He translates chrima as Christing, even though that is completely nonsensical. If you look at the complete text of Agamemnon, lines 83 to 96, it becomes very clear that Clytemnestra cannot be the antecedent of the adjective pharmasomeni. Anyone can clearly see that the antecedent is lambas. And if you look at any standard translation from Browning or Summerstein or Smith, they all display an awareness that the antecedent of medicined or flame medicated is the flame itself. It's the torch.
Yeah, you see that, right? So these are the classically important
Covered with drugs,
translations.
under the influence of drugs. That is not the case. He translates Karima as Christing, even though that is completely nonsensical. If you look at the complete text of Agamemnon, lines 83 to 96.
Let's get back to the debate. We already,
The consensus idea that the Septuagint was originally Hebrew.
Here we go.
Is to establish the historical precedent that the Judeans owned that part of the land, which is now modern day Israel.
Correct. And the premise is that we have a native language. That is a sacred language. And in that language is written this grant to us. Exactly. The problem is that's not the Septuagint, right? That's not the Septuagint. So what's going on?
Is it possible that no one else on earth can see that?
No, it's not. And I'll give you witnesses who have. One we've mentioned, Africanus. Right? He's going over the Greek and working with Origen to do the Hebrew of this text, Septuagint / Torah. He's going over, he's saying this is not, linguistic.
What year was he from? He was from like 500 BC or something?
Check the dates. Precise. Julius Africanus.
No, he's 3rd century AD. Okay, all right. This Origin is so bad. This is 3rd century AD. And Ammon didn't even know what century he's in. He said, so that's bad. That's a big mess up right there. That you're citing this guy as being an authority on which Hebrew came first. But here's the fucking crazy part, guys. This is a confirmed lie. Right to Ammon, right to Danny Jones's face. Ready for this? Here's the letter right here, guys. Here's the translation of the letter.
Oh, I have it pulled up. I have a better one.
Oh, you have the legit version? Okay, I just pulled this up. Let's do it.
Show my little illustrated one.
Look at what he actually writes, dude. This is so funny.
Yeah, pull it up.
So, okay, for real quick, if anyone's like really dumb and don't know what just happened there, Ammon told Danny Jones that Julius Africanus in the 3rd century, by the way, he didn't even know what century. He goes, what century? 5th century BC? And Ammon didn't even know how to respond because he has no idea what century Africanus lived in. He's the 3rd century, first half of the 3rd century. And look what so Ammon is telling Danny Jones that Africanus is a witness to the fact that the Septuagint is the original and the Hebrew Bible is a translation. That's what he says. Ammon, by the way, this is why I just want to make this abundantly clear real quick. I just people need to know this. When I was friends with Ammon Hillman, I used to talk to him about this, and I showed him that he was wrong, and he admitted it to me. He said, dude, I know, I see it. You're right. Damn. And then a month later, he's back to pushing the same nonsense again. Last week, when he was on Danny Jones, he's still saying it. He knows this text does not say this. He knows it. He doesn't care. So let's see what the text actually says. So you can see on the top, he's talking about the 2 apocryphal books. By the way, this is why they're apocryphal.
This is where it starts.
I'm just going to read the translation.
Yet I marvel, right?
Yet I marvel at this portion of the book. So this portion of the book, to meros to biblio, escaped your notice, being spurious as it is. He says this one spurious book for this passage, though an elegant composition, proves to be a modern work and a fabrication. Notice how he's not saying this is the original text. He's saying this book is a fabrication.
No. Sorry, this part of the book.
Yeah, this portion of the book talking about the Daniel chapter 12. So not Daniel 1, not Daniel 2, not even Daniel 1 through 10, not even Daniel 1 through 11. Daniel chapter 12. That's it. And 13, actually. And he says, an elegant composition proves to be a modern work and a fabrication and is shown to be refuted in many ways. Continue. When one of them is claimed under a home tree, and this is a really good argument, by the way. Yeah. Prenon, Epheskin. And then he says on the next line, he replies, the angel saw him asunder, pre-seen, right? And to one who claimed to be, it was under a mastic tree, skinon. He likewise threatens him with being split apart, skithenai. So, okay, he has a really good argument here. He's saying in the Greek, in this particular book, and the book called Susanna, which is chapter 12 of Daniel.
And at that point, it was not a separate book. It was just a part of a book.
Yeah, just a part of the book.
Yeah.
And he's saying in this one section of Susanna, you can tell the Greek flows. Like there's onomatopoeias, prenon, presyn, skinon, skithenai. So you could tell this is a Greek composition. He says, in the Greek, such wordplay works. Saw, prenon, resembling home oak, presai, and split, resembling mastic tree, kai prise, paratain, skinon. But then listen to this. This is where Ammon ends it right there. If he was on his show, if Ammon was on his channel right now, he would Chewy next one. But this is what the last part says. But in Hebrew, the correspondence is entirely absent. Yet, everything contained in the Old Testament was translated from Hebrew into fucking Greek. Literally, Hebrew to the Greeks. Ex Hebreon de tois elese. So, Ammon Hillman, you are a fucking liar. That's not what the text says. That's not what Africanus says. You're lying about the text. You're a disgrace to the muse. You're lying about ancient Greek. You are a disgrace to the muse. Stop lying about text.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like he continues, and he's simply talking about Bel and the dragon. These are known as the Greek additions to Daniel. Everybody knows that these were original Greek compositions, right? Like if there was a Hebrew antecedent, our version is not a translation of that. It is originally Greek, right? Like Bel and the
Julius
dragon.
Africanus literally says the exact opposite of what what Ammon Hillman told Danny Jones right to his face on a podcast in front of millions of people. And this is not a mistake. Ammon didn't think that he said the opposite and just got it wrong. He knows this, and he's lying to you. So he goes on. He goes on to say, the Bel and the dragon as well, which likewise are found in our copies of Daniel, but not in the Hebrew. Notice how he's saying, this text called Bel and the dragon doesn't exist in the original Hebrew. We shouldn't be taking this text seriously. And this is the reason why these texts are apocryphal today, because of people like Africanus. So the exact opposite is happening here. He's not saying these are original Greek texts. He's saying these are original Hebrew texts translated into Greek, and these two particular books, Susanna and Bel of the Dragon, are modern forgeries written in Greek.
Yeah, and
which is what the church says today.
He's also referring to Hebrew manuscripts that supposedly, according to Ammon, didn't exist until the 10th century, right? There's no Hebrew. I don't know what the Dead Sea Scrolls are fake.
The Dead Sea Scrolls are fake. Hebrew's fake. All the inscriptions are just scribbles. They don't mean anything. I mean, I don't know. It's just fantasy land. Just a fantasy land at this point. Like think about this for a second. In Alexandria, in the 3rd century BCE, a bunch of Greeks and Jews got together and they wrote a Greek text about Israel, about Abraham and Moses and David and Solomon, all about Israel, and they wrote it in Greek. And then they invented a language out of thin air to translate it into. Why? What the hell was the point of that? What is that for?
Yeah, a language that just so happens to be related to
it just
Aramaic.
so happens to match up with Aramaic and that part of the world, the Semitic speaking Arabic. It looks just like Arabic. It looks just like Aramaic. It looks just like Phoenician. It looks just like Midianite. It looks just like all the same languages from that part of the world looks just like Hebrew. And they invented this from Greek.
But one thing you gotta
be a fucking moron to think this makes sense.
But despite having spent like a year, binging Lady Babylon and like watching and studying this to prepare my video and prepare for this, I actually had never heard him extend his argument to claim that Aramaic is fake until this debate. And maybe I just missed the episode where he said Aramaic is fake, but like have you heard him say that a lot? That Aramaic is fake?
Yeah,
okay.
He thinks it's all fake. By the way,
it's all fake.
That's why he never talks about Elephantine. You would think someone like Ammon Hillman would love Elephantine because it proves that the Bible. Well, it doesn't prove, but it heavily suggests that the Hebrew Bible did not exist before 586 BCE, before the destruction of the temple, when they moved to Elephantine. Because when they get to Elephantine, they don't say anything about the Bible. And guess what? We have all of this. Look at this. Aramaic, 5th century BCE. That's not 3rd century BCE. That's before the Hellenistic period. Let's see what else we got. This is another one. 5th century BCE. 5th century BCE. 5th century BCE. Look at this. Full-blown papyrus with writings on it. 5th century BCE, Aramaic. 5th century BCE, Aramaic. Same alphabet as the Hebrew Bible, by the way. If you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, you couldn't even tell this apart. The only way you could tell this apart is by the linguistics, by the grammar a little bit. It has the same alphabet, and it's extremely similar to Hebrew. It's not the same. I'm not saying it's the same. It's Aramaic, but I'm just saying it's like comparing Dutch to German. Seriously, it's like German and Dutch. Same alphabet, same words, same Yahweh, same Moses, same whatever, but just a little bit of different kind of grammar.
And,
so it's just complete nonsense what they're all saying.
Yeah. And I also have a timeline of this, right? You can see this is like, 9th century, 8th century, 7th, 6th, BC. We do have Hebrew inscriptions. But yes, when you get further back, like when you get to the 11th century BC,
it becomes Canaanite.
It's
just like Linear B. Just like Greek becomes Linear B. You have predecessors to Greek. You have predecessors to Hebrew. Ugaritic is a predecessor to Hebrew.
Yeah. So
you got the same
Hebrew
gods. You got El.
emerging.
You got Yahweh. You got Yahweh.
Yeah.
You got Asherah. You got the same. You know what I mean?
But
they use the word for the word life in the Ugaritic is Hava, the word for Eve in the Hebrew Bible. That's not a made up name from Greek. They didn't translate that to Iwa. We find that word Hawa in the Ugaritic sources for life.
Now we didn't get to this part of the debate, but essentially what Luke Gorton was arguing is that in the 6th century, in the exilic period, basically with the destruction of Jerusalem, that basically I think this is how I would steelman his argument. During this period where you have the Samaria ostraca and the Siloam inscription and, the Lachish ostraca, like we know that Hebrew was being written in this period. How do we know? Because we have artifacts, right? So what he's saying is that if there were actual documents, even hypothetical libraries filled with texts that were not the Bible, they could have existed in this period because this was a period of Hebrew literacy. But at around this point right here, the 6th century, we know that their material culture was largely destroyed. So if anything exists here, we can't expect it to exist afterwards when basically Aramaic takes over and we have the Elephantine papyri, which are mostly in Aramaic. And this is something that, when we say Aramaic, when, Hillman says Aramaic is fake, I don't know how he deals with that, with this particular archaeological find. But the thing that I think is weak about that argument is that, well, in the post-exilic period, the Hebrew culture had the opportunity to write something else that didn't get, write non-religious literature. And it seems to me like a better, explanation for all of this is simply that in the post-exilic period, this culture just became very particularly obsessed with their religious literature that eventually got included into the Bible. And so now the entire corpus is bound up in the same volume.
Well, too, they got destroyed multiple times, and the Dead Sea Scrolls were like very lucky to even have those.
Yeah.
A bunch of Jews running from the Romans ditched them in the caves. We almost lost everything.
Yeah.
So do you think they're going to save like some random Hebrew grammarian? No.
Yeah, they saved their sacred text.
They saved the sacred text and they hid them in caves. We're lucky to even have those. So the only thing that does survive in cultures that get destroyed usually is the religions, because the religions get passed down because they're sacred. That's just kind of like how it works. So Luke was making a solid point that just was not landing, because people want physical evidence, and I get that, but like, it's Occam's razor just cuts your head off with this one. Where do you think these texts came from? Like they came from somewhere. It's like, and I don't know. You get my point. By the way, he cited Israel Finkelstein in the video, who says the exact opposite. Here in the Quest for the Historical Israel, Finkelstein actually says that Hebrew writing started around the 8th century or 9th century BCE. So there was writing, and he says meaningful writing starts after the 8th century BCE.
Yeah. And he's like a very sort of minimalist.
He's a minimalist. Yeah. So this would be like this is a big deal. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean the Hebrew Bible was written at that time. It just means writing, like inscriptions and text. There's like stuff going on. There's evidence in the archaeology that suggests that they knew that they were writing stuff because of the inscription.
And according to Edward Ullendorf, who is not an Islamic scholar, but he cites an Islamic scholarly source, he says that the current calculations as of his writing in the 1970s was that there are basically, out of the 6,200 verses of the Quran that have 77,934 words, just individual tokens, that there are only 2,000 vocabulary entries. There are 2,000 words in the Quran. Now, Arabic, because it's a living language, has more words documented, and he said a standard Arabic dictionary runs about 20,000 words, right?
Yeah.
But that just shows you that, like, if the whole language has 20,000 words and their religious text, like the Quran itself, has 2,000 words.
Here we go. Yeah.
If all you preserve, if the only artifacts your culture preserves, the only text your culture preserves are religious texts, it's going to have a limited vocabulary just sort of by definition.
Israel Finkelstein, right? SBL, peer review, says, archaeological and historical research point to the cultural, economic, and military dominance of Israel over Judah. Almost every significant process in Israel can be dated several decades and sometime a century before it took place in Judah. In certain fields, such as monumental public construction, Judah never reached the level of Israel. An important example of the precedence of Israel in the case of scribal activity and compilation of elaborate historical texts, assembling all available data for scribal activity in Israel and Judah, reveals no evidence of writing before approximately 800 BCE. In fact, it shows that meaningful writing in Israel began in the first half of the 8th century BCE. In Judah, it commenced only in the late 8th and more so in the 7th century BCE. Now, this is an interesting point for minimalists. Like, Ammon doesn't even realize that, like, there's a more responsible way to go about this if you're trying to debunk the biblical narrative. It's like he's pointing out that writing was not a big deal until like the 7th century BCE. And like, so that's late. Like, yes, that's the time. That's after Homer. So
pull up the timeline again. Pull up the timeline again.
Yeah. I mean, so you can have your victory over the Hebrew Bible without having to say it's made up in the 3rd century BCE.
Yeah, because
you know what I'm saying?
This is an illustration of exactly what Finkelstein was talking about, right? It's 7th and 8th century, and you look at like, boom, here are Hebrew. Yeah, this is when they show up.
It's the evidence. It's the science.
Yeah. Anything before that is speculatively Hebrew.
It's little scribbles. That's
little scribbles. Is
there
like,
you go.
Okay,
if you want to use scribbles, talk about that shit.
And so we don't know if this is Hebrew or Canaanite because there's not enough writing for us to even tell if this is Hebrew or Phoenician. And so a maximalist might argue that, like, oh no, we have 11th century BC Hebrew. Not so fast.
Yeah, Dan McClellan still tells people that there's parts of the Hebrew Bible that go back to the 10th century BC.
Yeah. So
what are you talking about?
If that's the case, then it was
maybe
probably,
if you want to say Canaanite mythology that got subsumed in the Hebrew Bible, like sure, okay,
yeah,
fine.
or something that was a
That's
tradition that existed in like Proto-Hebrew, and then later cultures reworked it.
But you should clarify that though.
But the denial that like there was no Hebrew in 7th and 8th century, like, you know, by the 6th century, of course, by the time they exile them, they already have their own language, but then they shift to Aramaic. And to clarify what was said in the chat regarding the death of Hebrew, the linguistic death of that language, and this is according to Gilad Zuckerman's timeline, so it may not be, you know, some scholars may disagree, but basically he believes that like this language, Hebrew, this is the gray bar right here, petered out and basically died by 200 AD. So during the Bar Kokhba revolt, it was like Hebrew was barely a living language. It was already shifting to its status as a liturgical language,
just like Latin.
Yes, and that the Talmud is basically a composition that is written right at that borderline between the death of Hebrew and the need to preserve it for posterity, because it's like, oh, what are we going to do? Our language is dying. None of us speak it anymore. We need to take our religious text and we need to, like, you know, compose the Talmud around it. And after that point, it is not dead as a doornail. Like, it still has a liturgical language status, but the death of Hebrew is like around here. So the claim that when the translation took place, it was already dead is not supported. Like, Hebrew was less spoken, but it was still a living language in this period, according to, you know, at least the timeline of Gilad Zuckerman.
All right.
That's to clarify that.
Yeah, I think, and I actually wanted to real quick. I wanted to Cross Babel glitched on me real quick. I think. Hold on, maybe I can go to Psalm 119. I want to do one real quick Psalm little thing real quick, if I could. There's Witch Doctor. Hey, what's up, Witch Doctor?
Yo, what's up?
What's going on, man? All right, I'm gonna go to Psalm 119 real quick, and I'm gonna get your thoughts on this too, because Psalm 119 is the clearest example, in my opinion, of a text that works in Hebrew and doesn't work in Greek. And the Psalms are the oldest. A lot of people say are the oldest layer of the Bible. It's part of the. I don't know why your thing does that.
It's because it's a misalignment of the versification. You need to put a different text on the left. The Septuagint, because the Septuagint Psalm 119 is numbered 118, and I think you might need to put the I don't think you're going to be able to align them, unfortunately.
Really?
Not with the Greek on screen.
Well, okay. I'll just explain it then.
Yeah, I have a ticket.
I did it before though. I've done this before.
I know we had an update and it broke this. It broke the Psalms basically because.
Are you going to be able to fix it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Subscribe to Cross Bible. Help us fix this.
So let me just explain it then. In the Psalm 119, when you go to the Hebrew side, let me see if I can just try it one more time. Oh, it doesn't work.
It's not good. Yeah, it doesn't align with the Greek numbering, and that's why it's off.
Damn. All right. Well, okay. So when you go to Psalm 119 in the Hebrew, it starts off with the Aleph, 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 Aleph. Every verse starts with an Aleph. Then after 12 verses, it gets into Bet, 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 Bet. And it does the entire 22-letter alphabet all the way through Psalm 119. The Greek, what does the Greek do? Nothing. It just translates. And the reason why we know it translates is because in Hebrew, the word vav, or the letter vav, means
the Hebrew text is there. It's just down. You just have to scroll down to it. It's not missing. It's just not aligned with the Greek. Yeah.
Oh, here it is right here. The vav. Yeah. See this vav right here? That means and. And that's a very common way to start Hebrew poetry, with lines start with and. You don't see that a lot in Greek poetry. So they're what do you see on the Greek side? Kai. And you can see the order makes sense in the Hebrew side. The words are lining up exactly as lining up with 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Greek has 26 letters in the alphabet. It doesn't even match properly. And it's just translating what's happening on the Hebrew side. That's full stop. Now, if you want to sit there and go, okay, fine, Neil, that particular psalm was Hebrew first, But the other parts of the Bible, it's all Greek. Well, it's like now you're just moving. Now you're saying that there was an original text, but the rest of it's all Greek. So now you're moving. Now you're just moving the goalposts around. Occam's razor once again. You're done. So okay, let's go back to the video.
He's gonna talk about this actually.
And Origin. He's contemporary with Origin. Turn up Origin. Give me exact dates. Oh God.
Oh, 2nd century.
There you go.
160 to 240.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. Late,
so remember, that's when all of these Christian works are coming out. These
So when
works.
did this conspiracy begin?
What conspiracy?
The conspiracy to call the Septuagint an original Hebrew.
Yeah, pull up the letter of Aristeas.
The letter of Aristeas.
Give me the date on the letter of Aristeas, please. Okay, this is when the propaganda comes out first.
No, this is what's
this
so
is when
funny
the
about this.
propaganda comes out.
All right, this is what's so funny about this. The letter of Ammon Hillman constantly is telling Luke Gorton, I just care what the texts say. I don't care what your theories are. I just care what the texts say. But why is the letter of Aristeas rejected then? Under what methodology are you able to reject the letter of Aristeas? But you confirm the questions of Mary. You confirm the secret mark. You confirm all these other texts that scholars don't think are legit. But then the letter of Aristeas comes along, and scholars point out this looks like propaganda. They don't think that the part about the translations is propaganda. They think the part about how they translated all the texts in the world is propaganda. But notice how Ammon accepts that scholarship. Go ahead, play it.
First, right? Which the people at the time are saying is propaganda. The letter of Aristeas. It's the magical letter that's written that says 72 rabbis went into 72 different cells. Oh, God. And came out with the exact same translation, bro. It was a miracle. Just like that Isaiah thing, miracle. What was that Isaiah? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
72 different rabbis went into 72 different cells,
right?
With each having the same copy
of the Hebrew. They have the Hebrew,
and they were allegedly translating it into Greek.
And they were translating it into Greek, and it got translated.
That was their story.
That was the story.
And you think,
which no scholar believes.
No one thinks that's a real story. Yeah. But what's so? But like I pointed out, Ammon, who's all about text, why is he rejecting this text? Yeah. When he accepts every text that you point at him, he thinks it's legit. But as soon as it goes against his worldview, now he believes in the scholarship. Now he trusts the scholars are correct. It's double standard.
It was the opposite.
Nobody believes that bullshit, right? It's like, why do you have to make up a translation story? Because their libraries have no Hebrew in them. That's why you have to make this up, right? There's not a...
Do we have any other whistleblowers besides African?
The Dead Sea Scrolls is a library. That's a library. That is a cave full of text. That's a library. I don't know what else you would call that.
Well, I mean,
the whole library of text.
An institutional.
Yeah, because the Romans destroyed the entire city. But there was libraries in Jerusalem. We do know about that. They had a flourishing writing scribal system going on in Israel.
Yes.
Now, I would say the best one.
Somebody would blow the whistle.
I would say the best one that blows the whistle that at the time people heard it because the guy who wrote the preface to his book said, "Oh my God, this is hugely unpopular," but it looks like he may be correct, right?
Who?
Oh God, Yehuda. Look, bring up Hebrew is Greek.
Oh my
God. Wait. This is hugely important because this guy does Greek. Mm-hmm. This guy's an actual fucking Greek doer. He's reading text, right?
No, he's not.
Fantastically.
No, he's not.
He knows.
He's a lawyer. He was a lawyer.
Pause it.
Pause it. He's not a philologist.
He calls him doctor here, though. He calls him Dr. Yehuda.
Yeah, he was a lawyer that was a self-taught. And every single person I've ever asked about this book says it's nonsense. I've read through a little bit of it, and it didn't even seem like he was trying to say Greek or Hebrew was invented necessarily. He's like doing word comparisons.
Yeah, he did kind of what Allegro is trying to do with this looks kind of like that, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't, yeah. Everyone else.
And then talk about propaganda. The first page of the book is literally one of the most propagandist books of all time, which was a letter that's in the book of Maccabees from the Bible. It's a letter in the book of Maccabees that Josephus preserves also. It's a letter from the Jews to the Spartans. And he says, the Spartans, you guys are just from Abraham like we are. We're all cousins and brothers under Abraham. It's bullshit. Now, Ammon will accept this one, of course. He accepts that part of the Bible. because it goes with his worldview. Oh, Spartans are Israelites. Greeks invented the Bible. Look at this. Every single scholar that you can think of thinks that that is propaganda, that the Spartans never claimed to be from Abraham. The Spartans never complained to be, never said they're Semites or Judahites or whatever. But the book of Maccabees made this story up for whatever reason, for whatever propagandistic reason they wanted to do this. And it's in there. It's in the book Hebrew is Greek. It's
Hebrew is Greek.
Right
What
there.
does Ruck think about this?
I haven't talked to Ruck about this. Yeah.
He hasn't talked to Ruck in a long time. Let's just put it that way.
Ruck doesn't want to talk to him.
I was at Ruck's house in November. Like, come on.
Ruck told me, I don't want to bring Ruck into this. He doesn't want to be dragged into this. Let's just say this. Ammon Hillman does not know how to show his work.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Ammon Hillman does not know how to show his work. He won't even come on after, because I had him. He used to come on whenever I asked him. He would come on the spot. Next 2 days, he'd be here. Hey, are you free? Yeah, let's do it Tuesday. Boom, he's on. I had him on like 3 or 4 times. And then the last time he came on here, I brought Ammon with me. And now now he doesn't want to come on anymore. He does not like it. You know what I mean? And he corrected Ammon on the Neonisco thing. Remember that?
That's in my video.
It's just funny how Ammon keeps citing Ruck as some guy that backs him up when he does the exact opposite.
Yeah, this is me and Ruck in around Thanksgiving. Like, it was like a few days before Thanksgiving, at his house in Boston.
Wasn't there a video supposed to come out from that?
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah.
Oh,
my video.
I mean,
yes.
Okay, I thought I was losing my mind.
No, it is. The reason why I waited is because of this debate.
Okay.
And it's been getting. We thought the debate was happening months ago, and then it didn't happen. Then I was going to finish the video, and then finally we got the debate, and I just gotta. I needed this to be part of the video, because I don't want to I'm doing one more video on Ammon after this, and I'm closing the book on this. I'm blocking Ammonites on Twitter. I'm dropping my video, and I'm never ever looking back ever again. It's not worth it. It's like doing flat Earth shit. That's how below it is to me right now. I'm just being honest. It's that below. That's that low to the ground. This whole entire thing, this whole movement of Jesus being a pedo, extracting drugs, purple drugs from prepubescent children at 4 a.m. so he can give himself a death inducer. It's all fucking nonsense. It's all made up. Doesn't exist. Flat Earth might even be more credible at this point.
I can't tell you how many people have read those verses and they'll still entertain it. But when I first found the guy, it was kind of interesting because everybody likes to entertain any alternate theory. Just at first, they just want to kind of see what the person has to say. And I'm still friends with a lot of people that are in and around that group. And hopefully we'll have some of my other buddies on in a minute, like Chase and Tiger Shark.
Yeah, are they coming?
I sent them the link. So
okay, cool.
I would imagine they're probably just,
I just want to hear, honestly, I'm going to be chill. I'm calm down. If they get here, I'll calm down. I want to know, what did you guys see in that debate that you thought Ammon was right about, that Luke was wrong about? Let's get right to it. I want to hear one thing, just one thing.
And I named things, right? Like I agreed.
We,
for the record, I agreed with Ammon on the part about the scholiast.
There's Chase.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. Good. Looking good. How you doing, man?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Hey, man.
How's it going, man?
Good to see you.
I just jumped in. You said what you're asking me or us about, what we liked about it, or what?
Well, just right? Is there something in that video, that debate that you watched, that you thought Ammon just nailed Luke on that, and there's just no way that Luke made any sense, or something like that?
Or they re-verified something that you've been keeping in your pocket since you found the channel, because obviously a lot of stuff that people were thinking has been debunked either on my channel or on Steve's channel, Cross Bible, Neil's channel, Myth Vision.
I mean, the Neonisco didn't even get brought up, but me and Steven know why, because he knows that's not going to work with a classicist.
Was there anything that that you went, okay, cool, okay, so Christ does mean, was there anything, and that's what I wanted to know too, from Chase and Tiger Shark and Marcel, like, was there anything that you were able to verify from that interview?
Well, I'm like super visual, you know, and I wish I had time to do the linguistics right now, but I got so many things going on, you know what I'm saying? But
sure.
So what I didn't get from Luke on that was, you know, like any kind of real defense that these are not cultic texts that are Dionysian rituals, right? So if you just look at the structure of any kind of stories that are all around there, all the time, before, after, and if you think that this Homeric Abrahamic Bible was uninfluenced, which I'm sure no one actually, maybe some people think that, but is uninfluenced by all these other cultic texts, that's ridiculous, right? And to think it's like they stole is like, that's kind of silly too, because it all everything's always kind of influencing each other. It's just that particular monism claims that they invented all of it in their version, just like Joseph Smith and the Golden Tablets. But if
Luke
you look at like
Luke's not a church. Luke's not like a Christian or a church guy.
Right.
He's not.
Well,
he's
there's not like a
there's
not like a good defense, like about like, okay, well, she was by his side, right? And you're like a plot point where they're up on a hill or they're doing this thing that is clearly ritualistic. It's not a warfare structure. It's not a kingship structure. It's not an agriculture structure. Astronomy, like all the other types of things you see that are structural plot points in texts or lawful or whatever else. It's not any of those type of plot points. He's just happens to be in the same exact kind of situation, and then this Mary character is now down by his waist or on her knees, which I don't really see the difference, really. It clearly seems to be exactly the plot points of that. But you've also already just said that we let people agree, like, hey, that's a dirty text. That's wild stuff for sure. Clearly, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So it's like the arguing over those those little details, whether she's by his side or on his knees, or whether it's a blowjob or he just threw it in her face, or like whatever was going on. You know what I mean? It's like,
you're making a fair point here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I have no rebuttal to what you're saying right now. Ammon has his own interpretation. Maybe he wants to go a little bit. He wants to turn the volume up a little bit. Maybe give it a little bit more intensity than what Luke would do. And I think they could have just been like, cool. And that's what I was saying to Steven the whole time. They spent way too much time on the little particulars. It's clearly a sexual intercourse, and it's cultic. Yes, it's a Eucharist, so it's cultic. Yes. I don't know I don't know what the point of that whole section was. They could have got
I'll expand on it. Go ahead with Steve.
They could have did that.
Yeah. So what I would say to that is, if you could show what I have on screen, my screen share, what this says here is ekvalonda ektis plevrasaftu gineka. So that is an allusion, as far as I can tell. I don't know. My interpretation of this is that Genesis 2, what is it, 2:2? Says the exact same thing in the Septuagint, that God took a woman from Adam's side. But here, in this perverse context, Jesus is taking.
Force. He takes Zoe. Zoe is life. The cup of life, the Eucharist, is life. So it actually makes sense from a cultic standpoint and a literary standpoint, from both, that he would rip a woman from his side, just like Adam rips Eve from his side, and give them the cup of life.
Yeah, and note that I'm not like, this is my translation. Engatamigniste is to have sexual. It literally means to mingle, right? We can say in English, like, I mingled with her, and what I mean is I had sex with her. So that's what this is. It's not a blowjob, and he is clearly ekvalonda. Like, ekvalonda means he's pulling something out, and it says ektis plevrasaftu. It's from his side or from his rib. He pulls a woman out of his side. He is not pushing Mary down to his groin so that she can perform fellatio on him. That was the interpretation he tried to pass on Luke, and Luke simply said, well, it's not his groin, it's his side. And she's like, well, okay, it's in the vicinity of his groin and this and that. Like, this is not linguistically ambiguous.
And it's also very clear what it says, kai examomen, bringing forth from his side. he's bringing something from it. He's not bringing her to his side.
Yeah, if xamenon is praying, so ekvalonda. So valo means to throw, right? Or it means to tug, right? Ekvalo means to pull out of, right? Like, or to throw out of, right? To remove. He took a woman out of his side. Like, there is really no other way to twist it. He got Luke to admit that ek tis plevras may mean at his side. I think Luke just made a boo-boo there. Like, I don't believe that that's reasonable. So I think his interpretation of this particular part of this particular text is strained, even though I'm on record in this video earlier agreeing with his interpretation of most of the rest of this. It is basically saying what he says it's saying. It's just that these individual words like eskrurian, this eskrurian here does not refer to oral sex. It's just general.
Farther. I'll even go farther than you and Luke. I'll even say, I think it's even possible that Epiphanius is reporting on a group of Christians that actually did exist. Now, is everything he's saying about them true? Later on in the same text, he accuses them of eating babies. Literally. In the same text right here, if you keep reading, he says, and they eat babies and they do all this wild stuff, and the women give over to the women and the men give over to the men, and he's just going off on them. It reminds me of like QAnon talking about Hillary Clinton and Pizzagate. That's what it sounds like. Now, does that mean that there's no truth to there being like Hollywood insiders doing freaky shit, and the QAnon might be right about a little bit of shit? Maybe. And I think there might be something like that going on here. There might have been actual Christians called Borborites who were into some freaky shit. And one more point real quick. There was this idea in early Christianity that Carpocratians and the Marcellians taught a sort of a libertine theology, that we were all free from the law of Moses because of Christ, and that we're going to get new bodies anyway, and that we can this body's disposable. Right. So they kind of were there was kind of a little bit of a wild attitude happening in some of these circles, which Paul tries to correct. So I think Epiphanius could be reporting on real shit.
So I want to that all makes a ton of sense to me. So I want to expand like past that particular text that they were focused on for that particular video. Starting small. I'm kind of trying to build the frame. So like in all of these other, what do we got? Dionysian, Eleusinian, Isis, Sybil, Orphic. There's more written down. I'm trying to. There's so much shit when I start putting stuff together.
The mystery cults.
Yeah. So and all of their like plot point, you call them plot points, and all of their mystery texts and all of their stories, right? They all have they kind of have some shared structural things, right? So call or separation from the group, right? And then there's like it's kind of an institutionalizing, I don't know, like calling for secrecy, right? And then there's transgression or like taboo crossings that happen, right? And then you're going to embody a type of ordeal, and it's going to be related to some kind of intoxication or sexual or both, or maybe we're still trying to figure that out, depending. There's a reversal and inversion. Then there's a death-like state, right? And then there's a rebirth state and a status state. And then there's a command to silence or like a coded language or a mixture of those. So all of those types of structures in the storytelling of those cults, they exist, and they exist for those operatic reasons, right? Or operative type reasons, right? They also exist in Mark, John, Revelation, and are mirrored in all kinds of other things, right? So they don't seem to be like, and when they say that they're parables, that seems to be, or ethical treatises that contradict each other. Like they're posted on post hoc, and that's why they contradict each other, don't make sense. And no one uses metaphors for some of those parables they say. No one uses like, oh, you're going to be saved if I come inside of you. And there's like the bridegroom of Christ, and there's like all these like speaking in tongues echoes that start happening sometime, and somehow they're like, they sound orgasmic, even if they're sober, and they're elevating music, and they're doing all these initiatory types things, right? So it's not just built into that story. This stuff is literally everywhere, all over it. And you would see other plot points if it was a heroic or whatever else. And then some points of that damn book, I'm supposed to take literally. I'm supposed to take the law, the punishment, like the violence, the genealogy. I'm supposed to take all that literal, right? But the anointing, the nakedness, like the wine, the drug, like, well, we don't have to call it drugs, but wine is technically a drug, and they're putting all types of stuff in the wines and stuff. The intimacy language, like the hanging out with a whole bunch of young people that is in all these other cults. It doesn't make it okay, but that has nothing to do. You shouldn't even look at that. That's a metaphor for actually being really cool and moral. Take this other part literal, and then don't look at that stuff. You know what I mean?
Why would Epiphanius write a scathing review if he's part of this cult? He's the Orthodox.
Well, I would say there's no such thing as like a pejorative Christian like we think now. And I think that there was a time where there was a variety of them, and maybe they
That's
were
what every
Christians,
scholar
maybe
would
they
say.
weren't.
That's what every
maybe
scholar
there
would
was
say.
like this, this part of them that they were evolving, and like we all come from something that maybe wasn't a great practice before. So I don't like to pejoratively say like, oh, all Christians are bad or whatever else. But I think the problem that modern religion has is their like complete call to be subjective to a text that clearly seems to be designed as a constitutional tyranny, right? But if they just said love in their feelings,
what's at the heart of this all, though, you have with an orthodoxy that arises at some point in the middle of the 2nd century.
And they kill all the other ones, right?
So, starting with Justin Martyr, you can see there's a call to orthodoxy. Irenaeus, Hippolytus, Africanus, all the way down to, till you get to Epiphanius, right? And these church fathers, they take certain texts seriously, and they throw out questions of Mary. They didn't have to. He didn't have to report on questions of Mary if he didn't.
No, they might have been trying to like change or something at that time period.
We would never know about it. He could have just deleted it, but he reported on it, which tells us that are we talking about when Ammon's talking about this is part of the mystery in the Gospel of Mark, and he tries to connect the questions of Mary with Mark 14. Is that a fair connection, or are we talking about two completely different authors with two completely different areas? They might both be Christians. We can agree that these are two different Christians. Maybe there's some overlap, but we have to separate things as they are.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's something to that. Like if we were a group of friends and when we were teenagers, we made a pact like we were in the movie It or something, and then we get a little older and we're like, hey man, some of the stuff we're doing, that's we don't want to pass that on. Like that would make sense that's the kind of the natural evolution, but that seems to be curtailed by the forces that are in there. But that happens with a lot of things. The gods are the faces of forces. Lady Liberty's not a freaking person. It's a force that you engage with. And everywhere you see a type of liberty, representative type based system, you see morality, law, order, invention. You see all of these things increase, and then they go through the cycles of civilization. And typically a monistic type thing, whether it's a dictator secular or a type of theology that's like connected to only one true divinity, causes collapse, destruction, and destroys all of that stuff. And we're seeing it right now too. But like, so if I don't look at Lady Liberty like she's a person I talk to, right? But some people think that is how that they were. And then some people even teach in academia right now, oh, this was a metaphor for like blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, if you read some of them old talkers, like talking about the goddess of liberty, they're not talking about it like that. They're talking about like physics and stuff. Not to mention the word faith wasn't meant to believe something without proof. It was meant to trust in something that showed a reliable outcome. That'd be like, hey, the clouds form a certain way every time, and then the rain comes. I should have faith that that's what's going to happen, so I can start making a plan and build constructively with my people around me to navigate that. So the word faith and belief and all of those words, go look up the roots of them, man. They got totally like changed to like make everything internal, and it makes you dumb.
No one denies that there are early Christians that are, and there's a variety of Christianities in the 1st century and 2nd century. But what you get a lot, especially with like Ammon's followers, they think that this was the orthodoxy, that this was like, and I've even heard one of Ammon's followers tell me that the symbol of the Catholic Church has the spikenard on it, and that is like an in your face. The drugs are right there on our flag, like that's our symbol. If that's true, that's like flat Earth shit to me, because then you're saying to me that the Orthodox Church, the Catholic Church, knows that Ammon's right, and that they've been keeping this from everybody all the way up until today, and no one said a word. None of the like Machiavelli never wrote about it. Nothing.
Right.
What I'm agreeing with though is in the first century and second century, you have wild different groups of Christianities, and then as time progresses and orthodoxy comes out, something more palatable for a Roman Empire wins out. Those are two different things.
There's a possibility that it's because of the claim that we have this one divinity, these absolute texts. They come from nowhere. Now, I'm not saying everyone here believes this. I'm not saying every Christian believes this. I'm just saying that claim is in our consumer culture. It's in our minds. It's what I was taught too, right? That this is the one true way. It has all the morality in there. It's where law and order comes from. It's the oldest language ever, and it's got as much evidence as Joseph Smith Golden Tablets to a certain degree. And to a certain degree, it was there, but it's also just like a registered, crafted language too, like Roman law and constitutional language. Like it looks like it was freaking crafted. But there's a lot of things to that. It doesn't make it a non-existent language or whatever else. But to say that it carries all of that stuff. That the truth to everything, and then the birth of law and order and civilization and stuff like that. Are you kidding me? Like to say that it's just like that. It's that anger that people might be feeling of being told that, and now they're looking at some of the roots of some of their history, and all of our roots have histories we don't want to look at. There's no sense in treating this like a dialectic, but it's funny. It was just the Christians that were bad, but they claimed it and they use it to justify killing the shit out of people.
It's funny that you say that in defense of Ammon, because Ammon is that he attacks critical scholars more than he attacks priests or apologists. Like Dennis MacDonald. Dennis MacDonald's literally writing books. He's changing the consensus about Dionysian influence on the Gospels. He literally wrote a book called The Dionysian Gospel, which argues that the Gospel of John is imitating the Bacchae.
Brian Morescu's book is based on the work of Dennis MacDonald.
Not only that, Ammon's shitting on this, saying that this is nonsense. And guess what else Ammon's promoting? The long ending of Mark. Guess what? There's not a single manuscript of the long ending of Mark until the 5th century AD. So all the manuscripts that we have, the physical copies of Mark, before 400 AD, it ends at chapter 20 whatever, 21 or whatever. And I think that's 21. I think that's what it is. But the point is there's 12 verses that are, or 20 verses, something like that. Somebody can look it up. The point is there's a huge chunk that gets added to Mark in the 5th century. Guess who's out here defending the long ending as authentic? Ammon. Ammon and Wes Huff are agreeing together that the long ending is authentic. Why do you think Ammon wants that to happen? Because in that particular ending, it has the naked kid or something like that. I think that's what it was.
No, it's because it has the snake that you're gonna,
Oh yeah, the snake. The snake. Because that snake verse is in there. He says it's got to be authentic then. Notice how his worldview comes above good scholarship. He doesn't care. He just sides with whatever he likes.
Sure. I mean, that sounds like an academic, kind of nerdy, thing. I mean, so short, long. I don't know. Throw them both out. My opinion. Look at the damn snakes everywhere. Look at the Garden of Eden. Look at the drugs.
No, the evidence.
It's crazy.
We don't look at the drugs. We don't look at the garden. We look at the evidence. Yeah. Is there?
In that instance, he might be wrong. Yeah, for sure.
Is there? The question is it's so simple. Is there a physical copy of Mark that we have that has the long ending before 400? No. That's it. End of story. If you want to argue for the long ending, you're sitting there with a bunch of apologists and priests on your side. Right. That's what Ammon's arguing with.
I got you. It might, that might not work. It's still a complete mirror to all ritualistic texts.
But he just wants it to be authentic because he likes.
Oh, are you talking about that? I'm talking about. It doesn't matter what version of Mark it is.
Yeah.
You can take the version of Mark that is the New King James version. They are still there. This is the thing that got to me because maybe it's because I hit my head so hard in a car accident, and I'm super visual or something. But I see it. I was at my friend's funeral, and they read a passage, and like the meaning of it was kind of nice. It kind of sucked that he tried to convert people at the end of it, because my friend was also like kind of like a secular atheist, which is also to me the flip side of an absolute Christian. But anyway, it's like they were telling this thing, and it was a metaphor for being in heaven, and it's like they're talking about where the boys are going to sleep tonight in this room, in their little secret room, and you're like, what the hell? Like, who uses that for a metaphor? What other texts have ever said, yeah, you know, when I talk about I'm hanging out with these kids, I'm telling them where they're to sleep, and it's going to be, you know, be all kinds of cool stuff coming on. Like, that's just actually me telling you, you're going to get a mansion afterwards or something. It's bizarre. The cognitive dissonance, like, I think the language and the stories and the post-talk stuff creates a crazy amount of cognitive dissonance. I gave you the example with the word faith. Like, the fact that I have to, if I don't believe, if someone asks me if I have faith, they're saying, are you a Christian? They never are asking it some other way, right? The fact that I have to find some other word and I can't use that word, and they took it, and it means I have to believe something without proof, when the origin of the word is to believe something's reliable and trust, have faith in my fellow man, or faith in things like that's magic that we even do stuff like that, and they hijack that shit. It makes your brain crazy, man.
Chase, but you know, just so you're aware, like the word, this dichotomy that you have between faith and belief, that exists in English. It doesn't exist in other languages like Greek and Russian that only have one word for that concept.
Well, I'm talking about ancient Hebrew. Ancient Hebrew is the one that took their language, and even if, I mean, I guess if you say they invented it or whatever else, but those words that they say or belief are for absolute submission and belief without evidence. And it's like designed to create a top-down, there's an outside authority always looking at you, keep you in a fear state. I mean, the language is clearly a type of cognitive framing that was, so if you ask, why would they do this? Why would they create a language like this? Because of course they would. What do you mean? Like, what, you control the language, you control how people think.
Create a language out of thin air.
Well, I don't know if they created it right out of thin air. They could have used it from. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if we fully know. But the fact that it's not very functional at all.
The evolution of the Semitic languages. It's the
fact that
Semitic languages.
There's no nation state that's built with anything of invention or civilization based on anything related to Abrahamic faith. The only reason Saudi Arabia has anything right now is because they buy it from us and take it from us because we gave them money for oil. They didn't invent nothing, right? That's what monism does. That's what China was happening in China until they're starting to engineer their middle class. That's what North Korea looks like. It's not God at the Godhead. It's Kim Jong-un is God, right? It's like my only way through divinity. This is the only way you think and define your reality. And then everything else is evil or whatever else, man. No Abrahamic faith has ever produced anything.
We agree on that. We don't have to.
So
I want to get Tiger Shark.
You know what I mean? Like, but they're making the claim. So, you know.
No, I get you. Tiger Shark, what did you think about that debate? That because Chase, we agree on all that. We don't have to talk. We already agree on that stuff, so we don't have to keep going on that. Tiger Shark, what did you had to have come away with something from that debate that you think, you know, like maybe I'm missing, or maybe I don't know how when you started listening to this, or what did you think that we agree that the Priceless of Mary is a dirty text, even if we don't agree on everything Ammon was saying. They shouldn't have spent so much time on it. Shouldn't have defended that much. We don't. What else did you think that Ammon was saying that made sense to you?
Well, I didn't watch all of it, I must admit, but the reason for that is because myself and Mandy kind of have our other theories on things. So, you know, Ammon knows a lot of stuff, right? But we highly disagree with his conclusion about a naked boy in a garden. We look at the actual textual concept of Greek tragedy, satire, and irony. And it's really funny. I don't know if you guys have spent time in peer-reviewed papers that these academics, PhDs, write on this topic, but that Bible is basically all of just satire and irony when you read it that way. And it's not just me choosing to do that. It's these guys going and giving real examples throughout every single book in the Bible of the humor that's in it, right? So, I mean, once you see that, you're kind of like, wow, like what's going on here? What is a Greek tragedy? What are the elements that make up a Greek tragedy, right? It's all throughout it. All of Jesus's parables are just that, right? So when you,
there's a lot of scholars that think that there's some tragic elements in the Gospels, and not just John, but like Mark and as well. And I think all four of them have some elements of like a tragedy or satirical bent.
It's just
going
pure
on.
irony, right? I mean, like even the soldiers when he's on the cross, like, why don't you just save yourself if you're God, right? Why are you crying about it? It's just it's all of this stuff that's wrapped up into it, and then a lot of it is the stagecraft as well. But as Mandy talks about with all of his sources as well, the Greek sources, you know, these scholars and things, his conclusion is that it has to do with this cult from Samothrace, right? Where you have the midgets, but the dwarves, the midgets, whatever, these characters are actually in Egyptian mythology. That's kind of where, if you go back in time, that's where you can start finding these things that are very, very old. And they make their way into the scene. And then we know that because of the wars that happened, right? Historians talk about the wars with Egypt that went into the cities that were all around that area in Canaanite lands. And then what came of that when they were depositing their religion when they were there. I mean, they just recently found a scarab ring in ancient Israel, right? Even before the Canaanites. So we know that the culture spread, right? I mean, I think I heard one comment he said during that little 5-minute clip that I listened to where he said something like, I'm a classical philologist, but if you're just looking at artifacts, then why don't you just go be an archaeologist? I mean, archaeology is a key to a lot of this stuff, right? Yeah. The claims of knowing that cannabis was at the altar of Arad and all of the other drugs that we found, the ergot that we found in the temples at Goth, which is the biblical Goth.
Yeah, how would you know? How would you know that with just text?
Right, you wouldn't. So, and
you got to take these fields. You got to take these. You got a holistic approach, and you have to appeal to other areas of expertise to know what's going on.
Yeah,
which includes people who know Hebrew. Asking them, is this an original text? Don't just ask someone who just knows Greek because they're blind to the other side. You know,
right? But yeah, and I guess where it gets muddy is that, like, even like the letter Africanus, right? That letter, they were questioning. They went in there and they were questioning some of.
They're questioning two particular books, and every scholar today agrees with Africanus. That's the funny part.
Right.
Africanus is not saying anything new or anything attributing to what Ammon's saying, and then he literally says that the rest of the Bible's Hebrew.
Yeah,
So why would you bring that up? He says the opposite.
In the letter, you know, it says, "Hey, I like these the way they're using these phrases. You know, we got to look at." And I think he even said that they were going and like asking questions to some of his Jewish friends, and they were like, "We don't know what this means." So maybe that causes some confusion for people, but I don't think that, honestly, this debate about Hebrew first, Greek first, to me, I don't think that really is too important on the list.
Me neither. I don't care what came first. It'd be cool if the Greek came first. I care when it was written. And then once we know when it was written, we can know what the influences are. If it's written in the 4th century BCE, then there's a possibility, even if it's written in Hebrew, there's a possibility that it could be influenced by pre-Socratics and Platonists. It could have Greek influence on it and still be written in Hebrew. Just because it's written in Hebrew doesn't mean it can't be influenced by Greek.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we all know we all know the influence that happened everywhere. You know, it's very apparent.
Genesis 1 has the pneuma, and in the Hebrew version. So in the Hebrew version, they use the term ruach for spirit, and if you look at Hebrew, ruach could mean spirit or breath. Isn't that interesting? That in Greek, the pneuma, which is a pre-Socratic concept, could mean either breath or spirit. So for that to line up like that, and then Grimerkin points this out. Grimerkin doesn't say that the Greek came first. Grimerkin's simply saying, oh, this looks like a concept that the authors of the Hebrew Bible might have borrowed from Greek pre-Socratic philosophy.
I think you're talking about Genesis 2:7, by the way. And that's a very interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting.
It's also a translinguistic phenomenon, though, because like Russian has the same thing of like the overlap between breath and soul, like, and that's just coming from Proto-Slavic. It's not due to
but that could come from Greek. That's late. That could also be coming from the Greek side too. So I'm not saying what you're saying is impossible. That there could be all these languages could be coming up with the same word for spirit that's also breath. But I tend to think that that's too. There's too much lining up there. I think there must have been a concept, and it might not have been the Greeks first.
But it goes back to proto. It goes back to.
It could have been a Babylonian idea.
It goes back to Proto-Slavic when the Slavs were the last pagan people to convert to Christianity. That was already in their language before they even heard of it.
But the pagans believed that too before, and they.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I could have just That's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you a question here. Did you see that paper that came out December? I think it was December 8th or 18th, just last year, 2025. So we're talking about less than a month ago about the alabastron that they found and they chemical traces of it with the opium on it, right?
Yeah. What's the name of it? Let's pull it up.
I'd have to leave this to find it. I'm on my phone at the moment.
Okay.
Just search December 2025 alabastron opium. I'm sure it'll come up. There's no other papers on it. So
okay.
But essentially there is this chemical analysis tracing, and they found trace elements of opium on the alabastron. But those alabastron they found like all the way up into modern day Ukraine, right?
Yeah, sure.
And this is like
that's where the Greeks were. The Greeks were there.
Yeah, there you go. So the spread of these practices and rituals are there. So I mean, are we finding exactly what he's saying? No. But at the same time, we're not finding exactly what Christians are saying either, right? And actually, we're finding the opposite. So my question to people like you and people that are researching this and defending one thing or another or arguing over something, I mean, I think people just get too segmented into camps on this stuff. Yes, you're not wrong about people really taking every word Ammon says as truth, and they want it to be 100% true of all this stuff. He's a pervert and all this stuff. But go back to your interview with Ruck when Myth Vision Derek asked him about something about Jesus, and Ruck was just like, was he even real? Right?
Yeah.
So that answer is so weird to me that Ammon knows Ruck, has done, similar studies as Ruck, but has this drastically, wildly different conclusion from him. And it's almost the same way as like the Christians. So like, I don't, it's funny that little thread that he gave in that entire interview, that to me was the most powerful thing that says, go look at this stuff for yourself. People keep asking me for reading lists or like papers. There's literally hundreds of them. I'm not going to list them all. I post them sometimes when I can. But literally, if you go on like Academic EDU and you start searching like satire in the Bible, you're going to find.
And there's tons of shit. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a well-developed theory.
They go through and they're like, this is Greek tragedy, and this is the setup, and this is the antithesis of this, and it's like a whole structure of the Greek style.
That's what Dennis McDonald's been saying.
Says it's Greek.
No, but this is what Dennis McDonald's been saying.
It's Greek.
I know, but Dennis McDonald's the one who's actually saying that it's a tragedy, and the stage exits and all that stuff. That's all in Dennis's book. And he's
Isn't
the one
it
getting
ironic
on.
that
Isn't it
Jesus
crazy
was
how much
supposed to
he
be
made a Jabba the Hutt image with Dennis McDonald's face on his 2 videos ago, like 2 days ago he did this. What? We're on the same fucking team here.
Isn't it ironic that Jesus is the fisher of men?
He hates people that don't agree with him, dude.
Yet he's saving a dwarf or a little boy, whatever way you want to look at it. But isn't that ironic?
Yeah, but
I mean, it's Greek irony. If you don't understand the humor that's in the writing, you don't understand.
Hold on a second,
Greek.
though. Neoniskos, that word is used hundreds of times in the century or centuries surrounding the Gospels. It's always used for a 15 to 30-year-old man. Always. It's never used for a midget. It's never used for a little boy. Ever. Zero.
Well,
so why would we assume that it's a midget or a young boy?
Because it's literally in some of these scholars' texts. I mean,
where?
Mandy dropped that stuff on you guys the last time we were live with him.
Yeah, but Mandy didn't drop anything about the Neoniskos being a midget. Mandy just said, oh, this scholar's saying that there's tragic elements in the Gospels, and there's also midgets in the tragedies, so this for Neoniskos is a midget.
He's saying it's a stagecraft, right? And
yeah, but that's fine if you want to make that interpretation, but that's not what the text is saying.
Did you know? Okay, let's go there then.
Yeah.
What did we find archaeologically in one of the most famous Colosseums in Greek, where they were doing these plays and these stagecrafts and these writings, playwrights, acting them out in person.
The
What did we
satyrs,
find in the?
and the satyrs look very short and pudgy like
No,
midgets. Yeah.
not at all. What did
What are
we
you
find
talking
in the
about
fifth row? Who had seats? Who had seats in the Greek Colosseum to watch these plays and stagecraft in the fifth row? Who had them?
In the fifth row? What do you mean? I don't know. What is the fifth row?
We found inscriptions of Jews literally at Greek plays in the.
Oh
fifth
yeah, that's in
row.
Alexandria and in Nazareth, in Sepphoris. There's a
They
huge
were
theater
fans
there.
of the stagecraft, my friend.
Yeah, but
of
what
the
is that?
theater.
How does that get you to how does that get you to be able to translate Neoniskos as midget? You see what I'm saying? There's a disconnect here. What you're doing.
Disconnect.
You'd hold on.
It's
You
not
did
a
this before.
disconnect. I'm not
Tiger.
Okay,
You did
first
this.
of all,
let me say something real quick. I'll let you respond. I promise.
No, I'm not going to let you.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You
now
got
because
this.
I'm not
No,
done. I'm not done explaining myself.
Go ahead.
So
Explain yourself.
we know that the Jews are there, right, enjoying this.
Yeah.
They're not against it, right?
Oh yeah,
So
they have
the
theaters
theory-
in Nazareth, in Sepphoris.
the theater in that particular, if we're calling it a play and we're calling that a scene in a play, right?
Yeah.
That he's uncloaking, and then he's tying it back in with a bunch of other texts.
But it doesn't say midget. It doesn't say the midget did this. It just says young man.
I'm not
You
going to
understand what I'm
speak whether it's young man, midget. I'm just saying these are different theories that are out there in the world.
I get that.
I'm
I get that.
I'm coming from the background of, I think that it's most likely a playwright. I mean, a fucking verse that says Jesus wept. That's a scene in a play, my friend. That's not. Oh,
It
Jesus
can't.
wept.
No, look. I'm not fighting against the idea that there's tragic elements and playwright elements going on in the Gospels. There's plenty of scholars who argue this case. However, here's what I think the disconnect. And I noticed you did this when we were talking about the Bacchic symbol of the pine cone, and you were like, "It's not a pine cone. It's this other thing because that has DMT in it." And I was like, "Wait a minute, why?" And you were like, "Well, Dionysus is an intoxication god, so it has to be this one. It can't be the regular pine cone." But then you just look at the regular Greek, and it just has the word for pine cone. So it's like you can't. We're just adding shit. The reason why. Hold on. Let me just finish my thought.
Sir.
The same thing's happening with Neonisko here. In Mark 14, all it says, it's using a word that's used in hundreds of texts that describe a young man between the ages of 15 and 30.
Right.
Even if you
Greek
argue
word that says pine cone for thyrsus, I'll wait.
the pine cone, I'm talking about the pine cone itself, not the thyrsus.
You just said that.
Thyrsus is tipped with a pine cone, and there are Greek sources that say that.
It says, I'll wait.
I'll get it for you. I promise. Just give me a second. But let me finish my point. The Neoniskos, if you want to argue that there's tragic elements, or even if you want to go all the way and say, I think Mark is a stage play, without Mark saying exit stage left, none of that's in there. By the way, that does exist in Aeschylus and Euripides and Aristophanes. When you read those, you get exit stage, enter stage. So it's not a stage play. The Gospels don't say that stuff. Now, a lot of these scholars argue that it has elements of a stage play, and some of them go a little.
It's written to be read. It's not written to actually be played out, but it could be.
No, that's not true. The Greek stage plays, Aristophanes, Aeschylus, Euripides, they actually say in the text, exit stage left, satyrs enter, the chorus now. But the Gospels don't do that.
If you read the scholars that are saying that it is a playwright, it's a playwright, which means you can actually read it on your own.
That's what I'm saying.
Or you can actually act it out as a play.
If you want to argue that, that's fine. You can make the case, and I'm.
Well, that's what a playwright is.
There's plenty of. Well, no, playwrights actually will say exit stage left,
not all
enter
of
the
them.
chorus. Yes, they do. They all do this. The Bacchae does this. Yes, it does. Want me to show you right now? Let me pull it up right now.
So let me stop you and tell you what you're doing, and you probably learned it from Andrew Wilson. You're saying, well, if the Bacchae says it, they all say it. No, they don't. And the scholars that are writing
all say
that these are potentially playwrights, and they go through all the examples. They literally say in the freaking opening of their paper, this could be read.
Look at this.
It doesn't mean it has
Look at
to
this.
be played out.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I just pulled it up. Watch this. The Bacchae. Ask me for another
That's
play
fine.
right now.
I don't care if the Bacchae has it. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Enter Dionysus.
You're not listening.
This is how you write a play. This is how you write a play, though. And then the chorus will come in.
Yes, it's
calling
one way
towards
to write a
Ace
play.
to
There's
Ghost A.
100
Chorus.
different ways to write a play right.
But I'm just telling you, this is how you know if it's a play. Now, the Gospels, you can argue that it's based on tragic plays and has tragic elements. I'm not saying you can't do that. But once you say, I think it's a play, therefore, Dionysios has to be a midget because midgets exist in plays, you've lost me at that point. I'm not following you anymore.
It's not that, and I'm not going to speak without the. I don't have the sources up. I just moved into a new place. I don't have my computer on and all that stuff. But there's more. There's way more to it. I'm just very oversimplifying it. But honestly, that doesn't really matter. It's just I'm just saying the difference between what Ammon is putting out there versus what you'll find from reading a bunch of other scholars, which you just said, right? Other people are saying this. These are all different things, right? And the evidence that I guess you would call the Ammonites use is kind of just no different than a Wes Huff thing, right? Because they're reading into the text, right? What they want to read into it. We've already
I just pulled up Aristophanes' Wasp, same exact thing. It's literally written as a play. It tells you what character enters and what time they enter and what they say.
I mean, that's probably a text critical question in terms of like, what did the oldest manuscripts have in them? Like, when was the stage direction added? What like editorial layer did the stage direction come in? I don't know if you can you can really say confidently that it came from the author. Maybe
well, in the Greek, I'm looking at the Greek side, and it has the word exodos for exit.
Yeah,
so
but
I'm assuming that the Greek has that in there.
It could have been an editorial choice of somebody who copied it. It's in some century, much later, who added in
but that's
stage
what I'm
direction.
saying. It's a definite playwright. So the Greek text that we have, the manuscripts that we have, tell us the chorus says this, exit this, enter this. The Gospels don't do that. So I'm not saying you can't argue that it's a tragedy. I'm not saying you have no right to say that. I'm just saying once you make that argument. This is what me and Andrew I was talking to Religion for Breakfast about this, and he made a really good point. He said, in good methodology, you can when you make an argument, you go from the known to the unknown. But once you make an argument and you start making arguments off of your arguments, you're gone. So you have to make an argument from the known.
It's just eisegesis. People are just reading whatever the hell they want into it. So they see something and then they say, well, it could be this, it could be that, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm not doing. That's what I'm not doing.
You're kind of doing that because you're saying, well, this says it, this says it. So they must all say it.
I'm pointing.
I might have something that might help. Just to, I mean, I could see that it could be like, I guess a play or something like that. I don't know. I mean, that's
it's not.
I know that Christianity actually.
It's not a play.
It's a satire.
It's the actual format that Greek tragedies are written in.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Well, it's totally
that they all follow, and every single one of Jesus' parables is written in such format. I'm not speaking as somebody that wrote PhD paper on this, but I've read them, and they're out there, and people can go find them. So
I agree.
Let me add something. I just want to add something from the outside. So, is it pretty clear? Is anyone arguing that all these other mystery rite cults do not contain the same exact plot points, whether they are G-rated or Ammon rated? Does everyone agree that those plot points are there? Have you read them? Have you seen them?
Exactly, because all these mystery cults have their own. They have a lot of overlapping
but they're not the
points.
Story of a hero, and they're not like how to become a better hunter. They're not anything. None of those plot points are there. They are separation from normal civic life, secret instruction, some kind of death and rebirth symbolism, usually a vow of silence, some kind of ecstatic rites or rites behind closed doors. Right. Okay. So we're going through. There's ritual purity, coded speech. I'm going through. I'm just scanning real quick here.
But the only reason I was pushing back, though, I wasn't pushing back on the idea of these being tragedy. I'm saying, how do you get from you think it's a tragedy to the Neoniskos is a midget now?
Oh, okay. So
that's all I was asking.
What I'm going to say, what I'm going to say though, is we see all of those other physical signs, like we're looking at a car engine, right? And then here's the other sign. All of those mystery rites all involved young children. All right. And now I'm going to add a little extra one on there.
What do you mean they all involve young children?
Young initiates and the sectarian Jewish movements that seems they also.
The Eleusinian mysteries was very clear that there was a certain age when you had to be initiated, and it's usually after puberty. It's not like little kids.
Okay, well, we got Isaac Cult. We got Cult.
Actually, I would argue that almost all of them.
That guy was like messing with boys. Come on now.
I would argue that almost all the mystery cults were initiation happens after puberty at some point.
Okay. So,
like bar mitzvahs happen at 12 years old, like it's something like that.
Well, okay, with the Essenes. Also, you can see this in modern times right now, right? Because initiation pipelines are usually filled with children. Why? Because that's when you want to get them, is at that liminal age. It's during the youth, right? So you can get people after that too. But if you're building a freaking army or something, you're going to separate them from their family and their prior identity. How do you think they make child soldiers in Africa? It's the exact same psychological kind of like abuse, basically, right? And so if all of these plot points now maybe so let's say there's a huge argument.
What does this have to do with prepubescent children though?
That's what Ammon's arguing. What I'm saying is the everything else that is mirrored, and the vast majority of them, the initiates are usually young children. If you think about it from a dominant point of view.
Where are you? Show me that. That's what I'm pushing back on that right now.
All the Orphic communities, the Bacchic cults, right? We got Isis cult.
From what I know,
look up the Essenes.
But where are you getting that there's our prepubescent children being like?
No, okay. So prepubescent is really. I don't want to get relativistic about arguing about the detailed words. What I would just say is recruiting people at a liminal age.
Okay, like 12 years old. 12 years old.
I don't.
Like
I have no. Like I don't.
Go there.
What I'm saying is I don't give a shit about the age. All the other plot points are lining up that this is.
You just said though. You said they all have to do with very very young.
Some of them do. So some of them do. So why would all the other plot points, why would 90% of the plot points line up with some of those, but this one detail doesn't? But if it doesn't, I don't care because the rest of them do. Let's say they were using 30-year-olds, they're drugging them out and they're separating them from their families and they're doing all this crazy stuff to them. It's still wild as hell. It's still nothing like
but that's
at all what's been claimed.
There's a big difference if it's a 7-year-old child, a prepubescent child, and a young man who's between 15 and 30. That's a big difference.
Okay. Well, there's lots of people that were, what about the Julius Caesar crucifying these people that were trafficking people? Does it matter if it's of a 20-year-old or a 14-year-old when they're trafficking people and doing this shit and they crucified them for it? And then there's older things with the Orphic cults that they say you got to sacrifice the tyrant.
Yeah, but you're talking about piracy. Now we're just talking about piracy now. That's not even anything with cults.
I'm talking. Well, no, it's the same. What do you? It's the. These are all the plot points in the Bible. Do you think the Bible's separate from history?
What do you
like? Whether it's a joke or it's not a joke, or whether it's a cultic text or it's not a text, do you think these plot points exist as metaphors separate from all of their history?
No,
completely unrelated. Or would someone put in a crucifixion and people cheering on it when he gets arrested with his fucking disciples that he's doing something?
So here's the plot. Hold on. Here's the plot points.
Why would you just do that?
Hold on. Here's the plot points you get from mystery cults. You get secrecy, you get some sort of salvation, a Eucharist, a baptism, a cleansing from your old life, a rebirth, and maybe some sort of promise of an afterlife.
That was rare.
Yeah. The age, it's not. That's pretty common actually from most the Mithraic mysteries, the Eleusinian mysteries, the Samothracian mysteries. They all had some promise of an afterlife. Fields of Eleusis and all that stuff. The Isles of the Blessed, those things. Now, I'm not seeing from the limited sources that we have. I'm not seeing anything that these are prepubescent children being initiated or being extracted drugs or whatever. That's a whole plot point that you're smuggling in there. That's all I'm saying.
I'm pretty. I'm scanning through my notes right now, but I have something somewhere about that. But I know Pythagorean had young boys, dude. young students, young boys, and also eunuchs. Is that a metaphor, guys? Is eunuch a metaphor? What's going on?
We talking about education? Are we talking about the Eleusinian mysteries now? Are we just putting it all together as one thing?
Well, their version of education was not sitting down and doing tests and getting A+. Their version of education was totally different. They use words totally different, dude. Our words are like totally detached from reality.
Right, but I'm asking you, are we talking
so they could have been taking drugs and like learning stuff.
Are we talking about education of children that are growing up in a society of Spartans or Athenians? Or are we talking about mystery cults?
The Spartans were doing it to young boys too.
Hold on a second. You're all over the place. Are we talking about mystery cults anymore, or are we just talking about education? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So what it sounds like? It sounds like
education is not memorizing shit back then, dude. It's
I know,
like
but what does
getting
that
gnosis.
We
memorize shit. We talk and debate.
What does that have to do with extracting drugs from?
I don't know how they were teaching these kids, dude. I don't know how they were trying to. There's rites of passages in all cultures, like before, like the consumer culture, which had to do with facing your mortality. It's where the hero's journey comes from. It's where Joseph Campbell was able to unify all myths into a hero that crosses over to a place he doesn't understand, gets a guide. That's all a drug ritual,
doesn't say anything about prepubescent children.
Okay, like
that's a big claim. Is all I'm saying. When Ammon throws pictures on the screen in AI of Jesus and a little 5-year-old kid with purple shit all over his face.
Right.
Show us evidence of this.
Well, the big thing that I have friends that are in that community, and the big thing that I try to explain to them, but I try to do it kind of in an easy way, is I get that the concept of some of the material was very alive and well back then. For sure, there was groups that were super crude, super prude, whatever. But it's having that sermon in front of your daughter, who's a minor until this last year or something, and then the AI prompt that the thing that you'd have to type in to make that.
I know, but I don't. That's like making a. I don't like to ad hominem him and like say. I mean, like that could be an opinion, but I don't want to say that has to do with why everything he's saying is somehow wrong. He's somehow like just not exposing anything.
No. That's just the character thing that makes you.
No, it is. It's a strange thing for him to do. That's between him and his daughter. I'm not going to get involved.
Hey, the children and adolescents, often guardians, were in the Demeter, Persephone, Eleusinian mysteries. This inscriptions on the list. They list paydays. Or is that youths? Is that how you say? I'm not a language guy.
Pieties is children.
Okay, cool.
Children like up until about 14.
And they were rites that were framed for preparing them for the soul for life and death as they age. That's called a rite of passage. They do them in fucking Africa still, man.
Wait, hold on.
They put people like through a lot of pain or something.
What are you reading? What are you looking at? I'm trying to find out. I don't know what you're looking at. What are you looking at?
It's all my freaking notes. This is the problem.
Okay. No, I'm not saying you probably got it from somewhere to be interested.
Initiates, cult of Isis had initiates that included young converts. I mean, also the eunuchs are freaking everywhere. Let's be fair. And also they're singing young in the Enlightenment, right? Like they cut their nuts and they're singing along. Like there's young people everywhere. Like the Nazis recruited young people to turn them into Nazis.
Hold on. The eunuchs in the Roman imperial cult were not prepubescent children.
Okay. I'm just saying the eunuchs are there. That's freaking
crazy. Yeah, there's eunuchs. Yeah, that's a real thing. This is not, no scholars are hiding that. Mary Beard, the most mainstream BBC interview, talks about the eunuchs. Yeah. Like no one's hiding this shit. This is not like Ammon's not bringing this to the world. Everyone knows about the eunuchs.
They even make a joke about it, I think, in like Jumanji too. Like Kevin Hart is like the greatest eunuch ever, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So funny. But yeah, eunuchs, that's another
thing I noticed about this. This is actually important. I notice this happens a lot when we're talking about, or when people are talking about Ammon's claims, and we'll be like, well, he said this, and this is fucking bullshit, and someone will say, what about eunuchs? What about that? And what about it? Everyone knows about eunuchs. What does that have to do with Ammon's claim about extracting drugs from prepubescent children in order to make a death inducer so that Jesus can go on the cross and get resurrected? This is where we're in totally different. We're in universes right now. We're in different galaxies.
Right. Okay, Plutarch, Isocrates, and Attic inscriptions. Euripides, Bacchae, they have a young initiate. The Roman Cid, Levi, Plato, and the Republic II. Orphic gold tablets, Pindar, Umbilicus, Porphyry. I can't say all these names.
Let's start with
Josephus. I mean, yeah, we knew he
What
was
does Josephus say? Let's start with one. Let's look at
Josephus says War 2.8 describes multi-year initiation tracks that were plausibly beginning at youth. Yeah, that's speculation. But
what's the passage? What's the passage? I'll pull it up right now.
It says War 2.8.
2.8. Okay.
Yeah. It's the Second Temple Judaism thing. But the thing is like, how come this pattern is everywhere? How come when I start to take notes and look at this, I don't find patterns for the metaphor of these plot points? No one else is like, again, when I'm like, someone is teaching me the Bible, they say, well, you got to take this part literally, the genealogy and all this other stuff. And this other stuff that looks like kind of funky, weird sex stuff and echoes into modern times with people doing all these speaking in tongues and somehow contain the most statistically likelihood that your child is going to get accosted. Now, I'm not saying Christians are bad. I'm just saying somehow that belief system echoes all of those things. And when I look there, I never find like lessons to learn how to fish. I never find like how you tell that the pentagram is actually Venus every 8 years making symbols in the sky. I'm not learning any knowledge like that. It's all plot points and knowledge that have to do with all the other cultic texts in there that you see them everywhere. Are they exactly the same? No, but how are they not influenced? Like it makes no sense at all.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think Jesus was real?
Oh, jeez.
Like historical person.
I never thought of that. I don't.
Neil, I've heard Neil say he thinks there's a guy, but
I think there's a guy beneath it all. But I do think the Gospels are very, very heavily mythologized to the point where it's almost like this is not even a real person anymore. Even at a few plot points, there might have been a guy who got crucified and he might have lived in Nazareth. That might be it. But literally might be it.
Alexander the Great, we don't know exactly how he was, but was he exactly everything that we were told? I mean, unlikely.
The Alexander romance has him flying in the sky and meeting dragons and drinking.
That definitely happened.
Yeah, so like, there's myth.
Well, he could have been tripping, dude.
Actually existed who have written mythology written about them.
He took a substance and met a dragon.
maybe.
We can find a bunch of random farmers.
This is like
find Jesus.
Yeah, it's just crazy that we're constantly that there's no other parallels that are argued. And when it comes to the other, like, I don't like a dialectic because I think that that's like functional for like certain environments and navigation. Do we need to put the sail up or not? Stuff like that. But when we use a dialectic on reality and act like things are siloed from each other and it's not all these like large ecosystems separating everything, it starts to make you kind of dumb. You know what I mean?
Scholars have been comparing the mystery cults to Christianity for hundreds of years. This is not like
right. Yeah. So
that's not just an common thing. So
right. So what I'm saying is that like they somehow don't take on any of those aspects though. Like if you start bringing up this stuff or the echoes of it, they go no. That was actually a metaphor for blah 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 blah.
I agree with you, Chase. I agree with you, Chase. There is a lot of undeserved pushback when we bring up these parallels with the mystery cults. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I think
we've seen it in Mesoamerica.
It's
just standard priestcraft. That's all it is. It's nothing.
And I think there's something to that too. What really bothers me is that like so like in any liberty-based system, they're not perfect. It's the best worst system. God bless the founding fathers, or God's blessed, whatever you want to say, who totally were like, get that Christianity shit out of here. But you are welcome to be here, and thank you for also fighting for liberty. Like the Mormons love liberty. I've met some cool Mormons. Like they got their own thing, and they're trying to take over Utah, whatever. And then they're all different. But like, they also really love liberty because they tried to kill them all at one point, right? And then they were able to make that argument to stay there, right? But any other system that is theocratic or monistic, but specifically Abrahamic faith, no other thing exists. But somehow those Abrahamic faiths can exist in that system. And that's how I feel about the history of this literature and this false dialectic that's set up. Somehow, in all of our work, we can look at all of these cults, every one of us here, like the tribes and all this other stuff, and we can make them all work. And like, whoa, look at that. Look at this cool thing, bad thing, crazy thing. Look what humans did. And it starts to make sense.
Case, they're all the same. Whether you're a Gnostic, a mysticist, or a fucking Christian, it's all the same. You know what?
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Christianity, or like
what happens.
That's all it can exist in it, though, right? But if we just take the other side of this argument, which is that Ammon is making everything up, and this was just a metaphor book. it can't. Nothing of history can exist in that argument. That dialectic is the problem I have right now.
But do you
I don't
hear
have a
what I'm
problem with
saying?
nuance.
You don't hear what I'm saying. What I'm
Okay.
saying is that Ammon is really no different than a Christian. Why? Because he's saying
I
that
agree.
there's a telos. A telos is an end. I know. It's like me going, I know what happens. Look at me, I know. And that's how these priestcraft get in charge in the first place.
No.
It's the cult of permanence.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what my understanding
I
is.
think it can come off like that for sure.
Well, okay, listen to what I have to say then.
Yeah,
I say that fuck having the cult of permanence. Fuck saying I know what's going to happen. We need to say we don't know, and that's how we should live our lives. Chaos rules the universe, and that's maybe we should embrace chaos instead of sit here and go, well, I have the answer to everything. I know what's going to happen.
You just told me the answer. It's chaos.
But chaos is not an answer.
I'm just messing with it.
It's not an answer. It's the opposite of an answer, right? So, if you say, well, you have an answer which is nothing, well, whatever. I mean, you could say that too. I don't really care what people say. But I'm just saying we shouldn't sit here and say his cult's right, that cult's right, because you're just getting into priestcraft and people fighting back and forth.
Yes.
And
a
Christian's really no different
something.
than Ammon.
Yeah, I don't like.
Over.
Hold on, I have to bring up a source from earlier that you said find it. I told you.
You find it? Is it not that?
Euripides Bacchae.
Oh, Euripides Bacchae was kind of like.
Hold on. This is for Tiger Shark. He says, consecrate as a Bacchant with boughs of oak or fir. That's translated as fir, but that word right here, and Steve, I need your help. I'm going at this blind. Elatas means pine cone.
Well, I mean, it's probably more like pine.
Tree is a pine tree.
It's pine.
Yeah,
I believe that would be the genus of that plant. Would be
that's it. There it is. So he literally describes the wand as a pine cone. See?
Is this the first reference ever to that wand?
No, I don't think so. It's one of the old. It's definitely old. It's Euripides, so it's definitely very old. But I don't think it's the first one.
So there's a 2019 paper by OORT, I believe, and he goes over this, and literally the scholars can't agree. Some of them think it's a pine cone. Some of them think it's a pine cone just because they think the artwork.
Yeah, the depictions show the pine cone. Then you have another this word right. You had this word right here.
No, but then you have another camp that thinks it's an artichoke, and then when you look and the scholars are debating
okay. You're right. You're right. The older versions do show something different. I totally agree with you.
Not only do they say I'll show you right now. I think is it Seneca? I think it's either Seneca or another one that's mad that the fact that they never really defined what it was.
But it becomes a pine cone over time, though. It does. But you're right. Yeah. The oldest versions
and then
it
becomes
different.
An artichoke. You have a lot of scholars that are debating and arguing back and forth about it over.
You're absolutely right. Because go ahead.
Well, just the plant terminology is kind of tough to pin down.
But that word is for pine. This right here, we don't know what this is. And the oldest depictions, like when you get in the Hellenistic period, they look like this in the middle. But when you go back to like 500, 600 BC vases, it looks flowery, which is interesting because in the another scholar pointed this out, forgot who it was, that in Exodus, Aaron's staff, it's described kind of like a flowery rod, like a thyrsus. Doesn't call it a thyrsus, but it's described just like this. So there might be something going on with that. But yeah, you're right.
I'm just saying, like, when I read that paper about them going back between like artichoke and then pine cone and like them not having consensus and there's camps and they're arguing, then literally they said, why do you think it's an artichoke? And like they were like, we asked a biologist and that's what they thought it was. And I was
because of these older ones. That's not a pine cone. You're absolutely right. When you go back far enough,
I said it looks like canary reedgrass.
Yeah, look at this. When you go, these are the vases from the 6th century BC. These are the old. You can tell because of the colors of the black and yellow. That is not a pine cone. That is something way different. And you're right. Okay. No one knows what that is. So now I know what you meant. Now I know what you meant by that. Okay.
I got a functional proposition over what just happened right there. My proposition is, isn't it a whole lot cooler and functional for us to get at least a better understanding of who we come from, and for all the good and the bad, whatever it is, and what they were doing to get us to this stage. Because if you learn anything about physics and nature, wowee, is it hard. And like we got to this point where we got like some kind of ethics we're trying to figure out. We got these devices we're talking on. We're controlling our environment. You see that, like, you know the sperm doesn't compete either. It works together. That's a crazy new discovery. So like there's all these things that like would help us, I think, navigate better, not to suffocate out what's right and what's wrong, and like to not let people have freedom. But it's important for us to have like that understanding, because for our navigation systems, and if we're using words wrong, it affects your cognition. And if we're missing out on what these people were doing or why they were doing them, and the good and the bad, what are we missing out on that they were experiencing that could help us now? Because most modern people, dude, like, think about how miserable a lot of people are, and their nervous systems are revving all of the time on fear and stuff, and they're in little rooms looking at screens. Like, what if humans aren't meant to do that? I'm not saying that the past has answers, or that we just start picking one of them and saying this is the absolute thing, but there's like a lot of functional knowledge that I think was destroyed. It's not destroyed, hidden / destroyed, whatever, the dark ages. I think we're still coming out of the dark age mindset, and we're trying to figure it out. And then all the cultures that got lost during when fucking the West came over here and wiped all our Native American cultures out, that seem to be doing a lot, like there's like, what are we missing out? And what are we calling progress? So I don't know what those answers are, but for functionality, if I think that thing's a pine cone and just a symbol for a metaphor, but what if it's like a plant that helps me?
I wanted to help out. I wanted to throw a bone to Tiger Shark here, because he's right. He's absolutely right. When you look back far enough, it stops looking like a pine cone, and it actually starts looking more like what you get in Exodus when they describe the leafy rod that Aaron holds. I mean, look at this. I just pulled up a random depiction, and it's funny enough that it looks just like the ones we were just looking at on those Greek vases. It's some sort of leafy looking rod. No one knows what it is, but like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of overlap between Greek and by the way, this shouldn't be controversial. If you saw my interview with Jonathan Adler, who says Greek coin or Judean coins were borrowing art from Greek coins and Greek art with the owl of Minerva, Athena, and all that stuff. So there's definitely some cultural overlap going on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think function. If we got unified on function versus and like wanting, curious and awe of wanting to like figure things out, and less on that there's some kind of like definitive mouth noise I can make that's some kind of absolute answer. That's like a nonsensical, seems like Abrahamic faith way of looking at reality, that you live up inside your head and then just like say the right things and think the right things and just suffer through things and let people dominate you, and then it'll be okay in the end. That's not living life. That's not the people that fought for my life and like took care of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you sound like Nietzsche right now.
What you both just did.
I might be doing that.
What Neil just did with the overtime and what you just did is probably the biggest evidence against why none of this shit is true. Because if it was so powerful and true, then why the fuck would it change every 100 years?
Well, no, I mean, the dark ages, we're still coming out of it, bro.
Because people change it, you know?
Yeah.
Because people change it.
The text, it's funny because when you're reading the Gospels, what you're reading is they're drawing from Old Testament motifs and they're reapplying it, but they're changing things to make it more modern, to make it fit the Roman period. So like the Messiah that you're supposed to get in like Daniel is not the Messiah that you get in first century.
Exactly. 100%.
It's a totally different, it's competing with the Augustine Son of God figure, whereas in like Daniel, it's just some little fallen priest, like Onias.
And
totally
now
changed
you're
up,
starting,
totally different.
Now you're starting to see the tragedy and the satire that's in these books and the political sides that are written in them, literally. I mean, this is what they talk about, the irony of all these things happening politically written in there. And how is that, and why is that important? And why do we know that's a Greek thing? Because that's the way the Greeks made Attic comedy in the first place. They started joking on the social norms and then the politics of the time.
Me and Derek,
also, plays were for education, right?
Yeah. Me and Derek were in the Galilee in 2022 or 21, I think it was. And I was blown away because they're digging what they think is the city right next to Nazareth, which is Sepphoris. And this is a city that existed. It was, I think was founded 1st century BC. I'm not sure, maybe the Maccabean period. But most of the building sites were from that Roman Augustan period. And Herod, which was the big puppet state of Augustus, he wanted to make Judea and the Galilee basically like just another Roman Empire state. Like he wanted to, he didn't want to make Judea as separate from the rest of the Roman Empire. So they started building. I'm telling you, there was mosaics of Orpheus. I have footage of mosaics of Orpheus, satyrs and maenads, Dionysus paintings on the wall, mosaics. What else? And a giant theater, which would have been walking distance from Nazareth. That was in the 1st century. That was existed in Jesus' time. So, look, there's nothing that's telling me that you like. I don't know. This is also goes back to if he exists or not. So, like, if he existed, was he Hellenized to some degree? Maybe. Did he know a little bit of Greek? Maybe. Did he also have his native tongue? Probably that too. You know,
you're talking about a population of people that they estimate only 3% of the people could read.
Right.
So how do you think they communicated? Of course, it was the fucking plays.
Also,
like
but don't forget
through
though,
a transformational experience.
They had their local tongues though. So if you go to Egypt, they knew Coptic, and then they also probably knew a little bit of Greek too to get around. The same way as when you go to like Florida and there's people who are immigrants from Mexico speak Spanish and they know a little bit of English to get around. It's kind of like that's what's kind of like happening in the eastern coastal areas of the empire. You have Syriac speakers, you have Arabic speakers, you have Coptic speakers, you have Carthaginian Punic speakers, and they know Latin. They know a little bit of Latin and Greek to get themselves around.
What's your favorite love story, Neil? Like a movie or a book or something that you read
from the ancient world?
It could be any. Actually, it could be any time.
Daphnis
Just something
and,
like
Daphnis
you were
and
like,
Chloe.
oh,
There's a story called Daphnis and Chloe. It's amazing. It's from like 100 AD, right around there, by Longus. It's a Greek text, and it's a beautiful, beautiful love story about Daphnis and Chloe.
So you're describing it right now. What did you feel?
It uses the word Christ. It uses the word Christ in that book. It says that it says my love for you is like a bull that gets stung by a gadfly, and it screams out. It says that it uses that phrase in there.
What did you when you first or second or third, whatever, experience that story? When you think of it, what did it teach you about love and how you view it now?
Damn, you got deep on me, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a right answer, bro. You just say whatever. You can be like, it makes me feel it better. I don't care.
No, I was blown away by the level of intellect. Like I didn't know how deep of the intellect that these ancients had about writing love. I just thought, because we grow up thinking like the Gospels were like world-changing stories. There was nothing like it. It was just a bunch of really horrible texts, and then the Gospels. And then you find out actually the Gospels were like the more lesser intricate stories than like the Ovid and Virgil and Martial and all these other texts that are floating around at this time. Longest.
So why I'm asking like what you felt about it. Like I'll try to give an example. Like a movie that changed me was a movie called Half Nelson. And I was deciding whether I was going to go to grad school for film or not. And I saw that movie, and it reminded me a lot of a dynamic I had when I was growing up, and I had some friends in the projects and stuff. And there's like kind of the white savior thing going on, but it's actually not any of those true archetypes. What I learned was like this like really difficult position that these two people are in, trying to understand each other, and one's thinks they're saving someone while also tearing himself down, and like kind of like how like a systematic racism might kind of feel and work maybe from like that character's point of view. But if someone had just told me this is how the Black community feels, or this is how a poor white person who's trying to teach there feels, like I could memorize that and I could think about it, be like, oh, okay, that's how they feel, and I could repeat it back, but I wouldn't understand it as well, and I still wouldn't understand it until I'm in the middle of it. But going through a story or a movie that's really good, it evokes the gnosis through your body, through like a virtual experience. So I wouldn't be surprised if the reason the plays have always been around or have been there, that they're trying to like educate their public. And it's also a way, I think, there's that sneaking suspicion that when your cinema or your theater starts to get controlled, that you're under some kind of tyranny, because they want to kind of condition you in a certain direction. If that makes any sense. So that could also go a long way with like all of these stories. And was it a play or not? Was it like Monty Python satirizing a Dionysian cult? Or, I mean, I don't know. It could be a lot of things, right?
Do you think 42 kids or whatever it was were killed by a bear just because they made fun of some guy being bald?
That literally happened, though. I think that literally happened.
You know? I don't think so. I think they made that story up. I think there might have been some like folk tale or something about that. I don't know how that got there. It's a weird story, but Neil, I just don't think that
oil on his feet if he's gonna walk in sandals in a fucking sandbox all day. Like none of this shit makes sense.
Elijah,
you guys should be able to pick this shit up a lot easier.
The Book of Kings is really weird.
I don't know.
Oh, do you know what's the weirdest book of all is Judges? You ever read Judges?
Yeah.
There's Judge in the Book of Judges. There's a story of a Benjaminite who, a Levite priest and his concubine go and stay at his house overnight, and the Levite priest goes to sleep, and the concubine somehow manages to get like raped by every person in the town. The whole town comes and takes this concubine of the Levite, and they get her outside and they all rape her. She goes back to the house.
That was a punishment. Yeah.
Hold on. Listen, this gets even crazier. She goes back to the house. The Levite wakes up from his nice Levite priest. Where have you been all night, concubine? She's like, oh, I just got raped by all these Benjaminites. He goes, really? He cuts her in 12 pieces. He murders his concubine. Chops her up into 12 pieces and then mails them, sends them out to deliver to all the 12 tribes of Israel to tell them what Benjamin's people did. And then they all go and attack and destroy the tribe of Benjamin. And then it says the tribe of Benjamin was no more except for the women or something. What the fuck did I just read? It's the craziest story ever.
I have a proposition, not a theory. What if the Old Testament is like a Robert Greene manual on how to rule over a population as like a king or monist type ruler? Like, you know, when they get out of control, you just like fucking wreck everything, and then you come back in, you're like, hey, okay, I'm gonna rebuild. I'm gonna help you guys. I won't do it again. Throw a rainbow over there.
Shit didn't happen. It's not historical. None of that shit is historical. The shit with stacking Jericho is not even historical. Like a lot of those wars.
I'm talking about a Robert Greene.
It's nation building.
If you read
it's nation building. It's Plato's laws. It's their own. Everyone, but it's not. But this is kind of the norm back then. A lot. Like Sparta had their own law books and myths and stuff. And the Delphians had their own law books and myths that went with like Apollo delivering the laws to the lawgiver. And this is kind of how things were. It's just that for some reason in that Maccabean period, these Judeans took this very seriously and made it law of the land. And they did not err from it ever since that day. Where everyone else in all these other city states kind of developed and kind of moved on from that 400, 300 BC period into the Roman era. And that's just kind of what happened.
Hey, do you know about the Constantine fraud? Do you know about that? Like where there was like I wanted to ask you about that. The Constantine, there's like some kind of letter or a document that was supposed to be considered history about Constantine agreeing to Christianity. I guess he like funded the bishops and like let them back in or something like that. But then there was like a forged document that they linguistically figured out had been created.
The donations of Constantine.
I think that's it. But I didn't know that.
Basically, that's wild. Because Constantine converted, and then he started funding the church buildings in Rome and all these other cities, and then later on they forged a text that said that the bishop in Rome. What is it? That has the most authority or something like that? Some sort of
yeah,
something like that.
So it's like, well, again,
it's been a while since I looked at that.
You rewrite history, so you're hey, I'm supposed to be in charge. God wanted me here.
The Orthodox Church disagrees with that. They think that's forgery because their bishops are not the Roman bishops; they are the Eastern bishops. So they don't like the donations of consecration. They're the ones that fight against that and call it a forgery.
Right, but is it clarified that it is? Wasn't there
it's definitely a forgery. It's cool. It doesn't show up to like I think like after the 12th century or something like that.
Are there any techniques that could be used on some of the ancient Hebrew to show that like it's like a kind of like a crafted registered language versus some kind of organic language? Because it reads exactly like Roman law, like our Constitution, where you do repetitive phrase, you do things where you structured and smoothed out a type of language that needs to be repeated and kept as like a law. Right. Whereas like it doesn't seem to have risen organically. And there is no other like we were talking about all this stuff recently just a minute ago when you're like you guys were arguing over the satire and whatever else. I was going to make a joke. Right. But it was getting a little hot in here. But I was just going to make a joke and be like, hey, guys, let's check some of the other ancient Hebrew and we can compare and see what they thought. But there is none.
No, there is. Like, there's inscriptions. So that's how we know.
Inscriptions are not full dramatic structures.
But
but
here's
that's
the thing.
Crazy.
It's not crazy. What you're saying is crazy. What you're saying is crazy. Do you want to know why?
Okay.
If Hebrew was invented, then why is there inscriptions from the 7th century, 9th century BC?
I don't think it was like invented like that. I think it was.
Do you realize that it's full stop when you find an inscription in Hebrew? Full stop. Hebrew existed when that inscription exists.
Do you have the timeline?
Right. Okay, so but that still doesn't take away from the fact that it could be Joseph Smith's golden tablets that an angel brought him.
Oh, well,
you understand?
He
used English to write the fucking.
These aren't
Bible,
religious texts. These aren't even religious texts. These are regular mundane inscriptions.
The Gezer calendar is an example.
They're just random inscriptions from Judea, because and you would expect to find a Semitic language. You know what Arabic is? Semitic language. You know what Syriac is? Semitic language. Hold on. Aramaic, Semitic language.
Why does Hebrew contain multi-language?
I'm making an important point here, though.
Okay, you
have all these Semitic languages in this part of the world. Hebrew is in that same part of the world. The odds that they invented a language that just happens to look just like these other Phoenician, Carthaginian, Punic, Aramaic.
I don't think it was invented out of thin air. I'm talking about so here's what I think. They took a language that they could codify after you burn down and destroy everything. You have to rewrite education, right? Because you have a civilization, a population, and they tried to basically mirror and do the same thing that Homeric Greek had done for Athens and all that other stuff, right?
Sure.
Which is like you make a hot box
of whatever.
Yeah. And so like that would make sense, except you change some. If you want to, like over time, this is over maybe hundreds of years, especially if you're taking away some of the other stuff.
Why would you? You don't have to invent a language to do that. You just write text.
No, but you invent the way the language carries all of that Homeric Greek. Does that make sense?
It doesn't. The Hebrew doesn't carry Homeric Greek. Hebrew is just Hebrew.
So that's those 7,000 to 10,000 words. Probably, in my opinion, don't carry all the shit that gets translated as it. That doesn't feel like that to me.
Why?
Like that's the part that feels made up.
You just feel it.
No, I'm just saying like the language can't contain all of that shit or come up with it.
Not to be dick, but do you know?
No, I know you're not. I don't take it personally. You're good.
Okay. So you don't know Hebrew. So how would you?
No, well, I'm talking about how language works, like the actual physics of it. Like there's a real thing right with that. Like that the way you like how much words you can hold in your head affects how you plan and think and conceptualize and all of that stuff.
That's
right.
All we have from Hebrew because that's all that survives.
Chase, so do you know how many words are in Homer?
Oh, I don't know.
Guess.
I would say how many unique words are from that ancient Greek period.
No, just in the Homeric corpus, the Iliad and the Odyssey. If you count up all those words and get the unique ones, how many are there?
Well, that's not really good because that's not the language. That's one text. It's actually one out of like 47 that's missing or something.
Same thing as the Hebrew Bible. So if you take the Homeric,
there's other Bibles missing. Where's the records of that?
Can you guess? Can you guess how many words are in Homer?
I don't see how this works.
honestly.
There's 9,000 words. There's 9,000 words in Homer. The same amount of words that there are in the Hebrew Bible. A little bit.
I think you're using the number of words versus like the number of the words in the language, and that's why it's not working in my head.
There's 199,000 tokens, which are just sort of like words on the page. There are 29,000 unique word forms, and there are 9,000 lemmas, which are the actual individual dictionary words. So when you compare Hebrew to Greek in terms of word count, when you're talking lemma count, you're saying Hebrew has 8,000 words, and the Homeric corpus has 9,000 words. Just just statistics from the TLG database.
No. I'm saying that the language itself, called Ancient Hebrew, is very limited in its words in total, and we also
it has the same amount. It has the same amount of words in the entire Homeric corpus, the Iliad and the Odyssey, which consists of a total of 199,000 words.
Right, I understand that. I'm talking about the ancient Greek language, right? Like, how is that compared to one text? The Hebrew, ancient Hebrew's got one text, bro.
Ancient Hebrew has a corpus. It is an anthology of multiple texts.
Mm-hmm. That's all put together at the same time.
It's compiled. It's finished at the same time. Well, not all of it, but it's compiled in Alexandria.
And its purpose is to say that it's the seed of civilization.
But they're not all written at the same time.
It formed everything. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but they're not all written by the same people. They're not all written by the same people.
If there were random like Hebrew stories stashed around, I might not know this.
That's what the Bible is. Job has nothing
where
to
are
do.
they found in other regions?
Job has nothing to do with Daniel. Like they're not.
Is there a copy of Job in another civilization that another civilization's writing? And they reference Job in that story over there the same exact way. Because they do that with all the ancient Greek texts.
How would they even know?
Because all those texts are floating around, dude. Like, why do you like?
Well, actually, no. There's no. Homer exists in Greek, and then doesn't show up in like France and Gaul, and until after the Romans start. Like you,
is there anybody quoting Hebrew texts before, or I mean, before like the Dark Age period? Is there anybody like that goes? Like blah 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 story of Moses, blah blah blah, and they're like,
in the Hellenistic
another area.
In the Hellenistic period, they do.
So after it's established,
what do you mean established?
Before it's established as like the book. This is the book.
Hold on, you don't write a book and then it just gets emailed to the rest of the world. It has to spread. Somehow.
No, but all those texts you just told me came from all over the place, and then they got consolidated down into one. So where are the records of them being in other places?
We're talking about Judea.
So they all wrote these Homeric stories that all stitched together in the same little location.
Homeric stories. No. Hold on. Hebrew. Job.
I know, I'm confused.
You're confusing me. They write these stories in Hebrew in their own native language, in their own place. Then they get contact with the Greeks, and the Greeks find them, and then they start writing about them.
So they live completely isolated.
Well, no, they're trading stuff.
No way that's not the case.
Wait, what are you asking? Are you saying that
I'm not saying it's like made up out of thin air. I'm saying that like I'm attacking its claim, right? That
you're saying that the
came
Bible
up with all of this shit on its own, right?
You're saying that the Bible doesn't exist in like 1000 BC. It's way later. That's what most people agree on. What you're saying. I just don't know. I just don't know.
I want to see where all those influences came from that were directly related to this ancient Hebrew. That's why. That's what I'm saying. They did it. They might have existed, I don't know, in other languages or something. I want to see like all the other stuff so I can see why ancient Hebrew is said to be the oldest in the foundation of everything.
No one's saying that. One's saying that.
That is kind of what's argued why it's so important. Otherwise,
no scholars are saying Hebrew is the oldest. No one.
Okay.
This is very important. I would love to see who says that. There's no one. That's all nuts. That's all like crazy young earth creationists, 6,000 years. Nobody's saying Hebrew is the oldest. Everyone says that Greek texts predate the Bible.
I thought there was like the thing where they talked about it for fucking thousands of years before they wrote it down.
No, Luke Gordon's not saying that the Hebrew Bible is older than Homer.
I mean, I can show you the dating of Greek.
Yeah, look, this is the basic dating right here.
So if we're saying that that was their language and they took the influence of all of these Greek stories and they translated it into their language, then that makes sense.
just like every cult would have been doing everywhere.
That's what everyone's saying. What you just said right there is a scholarly consensus.
I don't think Cross-Bible thinks that.
Ammon goes beyond. Yes, he does.
You don't think I say what?
Ammon goes beyond the scholarly. Here, hold on.
Do you think they came up with all this stuff on their own?
What do you mean on their own?
Hebrews, like the origin of all the stories we're seeing are just all Hebrew stories.
No one says that they came up with it on their own. Of course, they're influenced by their neighbors.
Heavily influenced. Yeah.
Everyone says that. Everyone.
Then why is everybody so mad at this whole thing?
Because Ammon's saying that they wrote it in Greek first and then translated it into Hebrew. That's nonsense. They wrote it.
I think that's why. I think me and Tiger Shark actually agreed. Is that what you said earlier, Tiger? Like knowing exactly who's the first man.
That the Septuagint is the original. There's no evidence for that. No one's saying that.
And Chase, just so you understand my position based on
you're arguing for a later dating. Everyone's agreeing on that later dating right now. That's where everyone's leaning.
So
towards.
Then that would mean all the ideas and the concepts and all that other stuff come from Greek speaking people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bingo! Okay. Ding, 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 ding. That's what everyone says.
Okay. It's a.
But for some reason, Ammon
piece of
can't
shit
accept that. For some reason, Ammon can't accept the winning position against Christianity, and he needs it to be Greek first for some reason. It has to be written in Greek.
So does it matter to argue over it?
Because the evidence doesn't say that.
Yeah, and also because for any self-respecting Greek scholar would not claim the Septuagint as a native work of Greek literature. That's what Ammon claims, and if you presented the Septuagint to a classical Greek speaker of the second sophistic, they would be like, "This is bad. This is not our literature," and he claims that it is. So it's just. But just to be clear on my position here, these artifacts right here, these linear B tablets that Neil and I both personally saw in a museum in Athens, going to they're from the late Bronze Age. We're talking 14th, 13th century BC.
That's older than any Hebrew.
Yeah, you go back to the oldest thing that could possibly conceptually be Hebrew. You're looking at 11th century BC, maybe, probably not.
And it might not even be Hebrew. And this is
okay.
We're still going.
I think I'm getting it.
We're still keep going though. Keep going. Keep going.
So hold on.
Hold on. Then we get to this period right here. This is when you start to see what looks like what we can actually identify as Hebrew. 8th, 9th century BC, and this is what Israel Finkelstein writes in this book right here. He says, writing doesn't really begin in Hebrew until the 9th century. He says, good writing and meaningful writing, 8th to 7th century BC. 600s we're getting into now. And then now new evidence has been coming out lately, and people are saying, wait a minute, Elephantine, we have all this Aramaic writing from all these Jews living in Egypt who fled the Second Temple destruction in 586 BCE. If you stay with me now. Mm-hmm. They lived there for 200 years. So from 586 to around 400 BCE, these people are living in Elephantine. These are Jews. They call themselves Judeans, Judaios, Yehudim in Aramaic, and they don't say anything about Moses or Abraham or the Torah. So a lot of scholars have pointed out that it's very possible that the Hebrew Bible either didn't exist before 586 BCE or it was not widely known at all and very few knew about it. Okay. So that brings the evidence. That means the evidence is going all the way into the 500s, 400s for Hebrew Bible.
Copy. They don't mention Moses, but they what do they say? Something about a fire cup, right? Fire bearing the
fire holder. They use a Persian word for that. They talk about Jerusalem.
Okay.
Yahweh.
I think I'm getting it. Okay, so I feel like we're on the same page now. Maybe that's probably a misconception by me. So
no,
we all agree that they influenced by their neighbors, like all the other cults or whatever else, and then they wrote their book in their language based on or influenced by that other stuff. Is that where we're at?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dude,
they could have added some stuff. I don't know. I'm just
except for the characterization of book. Book is anachronistic and it's inaccurate. It's not a book. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Check something.
But to make Hillman's point though, you're looking like if you're looking analogously at what survives from this period of time, and you see just like a few scraps, you go to Greek and you look at the explosion of the classical period. These are like mostly authors that we've preserved all of these authors because the Byzantines preserved
because
them,
the
right?
Romans are Greek, and they're the ones who usher in our.
I mean,
they're like the Byzantines are Romans who are Greek speaking, writing in Greek, and they also know Latin, and they love the Romans because they are the Romans. So they're going to preserve all this shit. They're not preserving. They're not preserving Persian. They're not preserving Assyrian. They're not preserving Assyrian stuff. Just Greek. Yeah.
So the plot point thing that I am like autistic about and keep bringing up, that like, because it just like hits me in the face. So now I feel like, okay, now you kind of see why I see that. Do you see what door just clearly opened up though? Yeah. Like you're seeing those plot points and all of those other influence are all agreed on as drug cultic texts with initiates and all kinds of weird shit. We don't really know what they were doing, but it was definitely drugs and wasn't metaphors. So now we just went full circle into the influence, even if it's in their language, like it's coming from there. And of course it's echoing those patterns and it evokes those types of rights.
Yeah, but you're just talking about culture in general though.
No, I'm talking about why, if I take a text, if I take Cormac McCarthy and I have my own, I don't know, elf language, and I copy the story of Cormac McCarthy into the elf language, all of the plot points are going to be preserved and evoking the same themes and things that Cormac McCarthy was doing. If someone went back and said, hey, that looks like Cormac McCarthy and elf, Chase Elf, but it clearly is actually just a metaphor for this other thing that I'm going to tell you because I'm in power or whatever else. It didn't mean what Cormac McCarthy meant. And in fact, in some cases, I'll say, actually, Chase never even read Cormac McCarthy. He came up with this on his own. Do you see what I'm talking about? The physics of that? That's the wild
Tiger Shark.
thing,
What were you saying? What were you saying, Tiger Shark?
Right. So I think you guys aren't going further back enough, but I think it's because you guys are in the context of what Ammon's talking about. So I believe I really like Michael Harner. You guys should look him up. Awesome guy, but he coined the term. He accused the West of being ethnocentric and cognicentric, which people were not essentially exploring the altered states of consciousness, right? But when we're talking about the Greeks, where did the Greeks come from? I mean, we have Linear B, right? But what was before that? Linear A, the Minoans, right? But if you look at the culture and what we've actually found from the Minoans, it's fucking outlandish, man. Have you guys actually looked at the artwork, the statues,
not all of it, no,
and the caves that we've actually found? Opium pipes in caves in Crete that then went north to Athens. I mean, that culture heavily influenced what we consider the first Greeks, even, right? So when people go, this is all Greek origin, the Greeks are the best, they didn't even have the best calendar. They had a sophisticated one, but we know the best one came from the Mayan culture. We know that, right? We have the codex from the Mayans that actually has the best, most accurate calendar that we know of to date. So all this stuff about the Greeks being first, they're the best this, they're the best that, it's really just more ethnocentric priestcraft bullshit in my mind.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. That's a weird. I'm a big nature ecosystem, and kind of like doesn't make sense to be like, well, it's just this one thing that.
I just remembered something. I want to close out after this, but I forgot that I wanted to. It's important
that we literally drew the connection.
Sure.
All the drug shit in the Bible. It's like it's unreal, dude. It's I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Before we close out, I wanted to make this point that Ammon and Luke were going back and forth on, and I wish Luke would have just pushed him a little bit harder, because when they got to the part of the Bible when Jesus is on the cross, and actually let me just pull that up. What verse is that? That's Eloah lama sabachthani. My God, what verse is Mark 15:34?
Yeah.
Here. So let me share my screen. I'm going to share my screen for a few things real quick. Just give me a second. Let me just jump around real quick. So I don't know if you guys remember this in the debate. Maybe you didn't see this part. They were talking about this part right here. And the verses, and in 3 p.m, Jesus cried out, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And they were arguing, and Luke was correctly saying, this is Aramaic. Jesus is quoted speaking Aramaic. And by the way, this isn't the only time in the Bible when Jesus is quoted speaking Aramaic. It's like 3 or 4 times Jesus is quoted directly speaking Aramaic. And Ammon tried to lie and say this is Greek. So, first of all, Luke broke down that El means God in Aramaic. Oi gives it a possessive, my God. Eloi means my God, my God. Lama sabachthani means why forsaken me. So why have you forsaken me, right? Now, Ammon tried to say this is actually magical papyri language. And if I was Luke, I would have said, show me. Pull it up. Because if he would have said that, end of debate. It doesn't exist in the Greek magical papyri. Now, the word Sabah exists, Sabaoth exists, and also the word Chthon exists in different parts, not together like this. So Ammon's putting things together that aren't there. However, this is the end of it. And I wish Luke would have brought this up, because to end this debate right here on what this is, all you got to do is look at the original Greek from Psalm 22, and you can see where Mark is getting this from. Psalm 22 says, Hotheos, mu, my God, proskes moi, inate egatelepes. My God, why and me? Why have you forsaken me? And just to show you real quick where this actually came from in Aramaic, on the Aramaic side, because that's the Greek side.
Well, yeah, and there are textual variants. There's a version of this that's Hebrew, and there's a version of that's Aramaic.
This is the Hebrew.
Yeah.
So it changes it to Aramaic. That's why it's got the Eloi. This is Hebrew. Eli, lama sabachthani. Right there. There's the exact words. The vowel changes a little bit because it's in Aramaic, but the words, my God, Elah, lama sabachthani. Right here. Full stop. This is not Greek magical papyri. If it is Greek magical papyri, it's some sort of pun that's going on. If they're trying to do that. But at the very least, it's coming from Psalm 22, game over. Unless they did time machine, unless they have a time machine, and the writer of Mark was able to go back in time and change Psalm 22 to match his Greek magical papyri. There's no other way around that. So I just wanted to get that out there. That was a big L for Ammon in that debate. That's why I wanted to make sure that got out there.
Okay, Gnostic, another thing I'll say is that, yeah, the more that I've kind of come to see Ammon, and it's, whatever, his followers can attack me, I don't really care. He says he's not a theologian, but in my eyes, he is a theologian.
Couldn't agree more. He's a Gnostic Christian. He's a Borberite. He's pushing the Borberite theology. That's what he's doing. He's pushing that Borberite theology.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just, I'm not, I can't bring myself to start trying to argue linguistics when I have no fucking right.
Sure. That's fair. That's fair.
You know what I mean? To be like, I actually exactly know what's going on. But the patterns that he is the gadfly, man. So, I mean, in my opinion, the patterns that he's cracking open, not that someone hasn't tried to do this before, not that whatever else, the conversations that have been started, the things that have been matched historically, the things that are making so much more sense, right? Not in some exact way, the words, every word that comes out of his mouth, some kind of absolute truth and all, that's garbage if you're looking at it like that. That sucks. But the inspiration to rehash and relook at some of this stuff and see what this stuff evokes and its history, what it comes from, and what kind of history are we missing and not looking at, and what kind of things were they using in antiquity that was kind of kept away or were rediscovered or was lost. I mean, dude, that's amazing. It's fucking amazing.
I don't think it's amazing if you're lying.
Exactly, he's not.
If you're lying about Greek,
his performance is
if you're lying about the Greek, but if you're lying about Greek and you're getting people to distrust scholars and go to and say that academia is all lying to you and I'm the only one who's right, fuck you. That's not cool. You're not a gadfly. You're a cult leader.
Well, yeah, but the academic system denial of his whole picture he's painting is going to really bite them in the ass. Unless we get turned into another tech dark ages. So I think he's just fighting against that in a way too, man. he's not really fighting. I don't see like if you having nuanced disagreements, maybe in the linguistic cycle.
He's went
but
from
like,
Bible scholars to now all of academia. Now
Yeah.
all classes are falling now. It used to be
but
just
Bible scholars are claiming that they're absolute books that are supposed to be the teachings of morality and all this other stuff, and how it and so it's fine. It's upside down. It's inverted.
Chase, there's somebody in this room that has a fucking NASA-funded graduate degree right here on screen.
Mhm.
He was at St. Mary's. He wasn't at fucking Harvard or Yale or Dartmouth.
Yeah, that's not. And he was only there for 1 year, not even 1 year.
No. I think that my point's getting missed. Like the fact that we're all here together talking about this and thinking about this, and so I think if it's like this crazy theatrical / whatever you want to call it, and I don't use that word theatrical lightly. It's evoked a shockwave. And like, if people ride that wave the right way and they go start trying to teach them or learn, even if it just gets people learning like a little bit about antiquity they didn't think about before, and more about like ourselves and stuff, things start to look a little bit more like make more sense about what's going on.
I disagree, dude. I disagree 100%, because if the answer that you're putting out there is
no answer.
If people start listening to Ammon and it gets them to start asking questions to learn more, but then they start turning to everything Ammon says is truth, that's just leaving one person to follow another person.
Yeah.
No. I'm saying that like it's getting me talking about it, and I never go around and tell people you need to go watch this guy, and this is the absolute truth. I was evangelical.
If you're getting enjoyment out of it, Chase, if you're getting enjoyment out of it, I will not tell you to stop. It's totally fair.
I'm getting inspiration to go read stuff.
That's cool.
Like,
that's
right?
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
But I'm just saying, like, just me. Okay, here's another example. Like I have a kava bar, right? And I'll tell you a secret that I guess I haven't said anything to. It's going pretty good right now. And there's a lot of crazy shit that it took to get it happening, and it was transformed in a certain way. And
you said a kava bar? A what?
Yeah, a kava bar. Yeah, it's just kind of better working construction. Better than drinking booze all day,
Oh, okay. Cool.
But it's not for everybody. It's whatever. But I base that whole place off the goddess of liberty, not as a person, but as a force. And I judge who gets to stay there based on that. And then like I let it grow, just kind of like a garden. All of a sudden, people are coming in. They're like, there's artists that haven't made anything for years, and I'm just like, hey, dude, like you made something cool. Why don't you just make something and put it up there and stuff like that? So like that, I'm just talking about like that cognitive shift within inside of me is not some truth, some kind of like absolute answer to anything or something like that. But it's like inspired me to be like, oh my gosh, there's something I could kind of maybe start trying to direct my actions towards and try to see if I can bring it about, evoke it, and it's happening. And it's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I'm staring at the floor and being depressed about how crazy the world is.
You know about the Aventine triad of the Romans? The Aventine triad? It's a Roman imperial cult. The Ceres, which is Demeter in Latin, Liber, and Libera. Is this triad of gods and goddesses of liberty. Ceres, Liber, look it up. Ceres,
I am gonna look it up. Yeah.
Anyways,
the triad. Yeah. So I'm just saying, I don't look at it like I'm looking for an answer.
Don't you got your book that you want to promote, man?
Yeah. Whenever.
Yeah, man. Take it away. There's 600 people watching right now. 655.
Hell yeah. All right, everybody. So my name is Stephen M. Blackman. I'm an author or a writer, I guess you could say. I just released a book. It's based on the Roman time period that we're all focused on right now. It's called Secundus. Neil, I have the link in the private chat if you want to throw that or tack it up.
Yeah.
It's about a kid that grows up raised by a Roman soldier. His dad's a gladiator instructor. As you can imagine, he winds up in the army, but you're going to have to read the book. If I tell you too much, it's going to ruin it for you. So once we get the link, you guys can go check it out. There's a hard copy. This is really awesome. Here we go.
I just put it in the description and in the chat. So
the soft copy, it's $9.99, much more affordable. Now, The Great Gatsby, 38.8 thousand words. The Outsiders, 39, maybe 40,000 words. I made this 40,000 words on purpose. That way you would actually finish it. So many people, they say they read, they don't. So by making this one of many for a series, there'll be more to come, and I'm about a sixth of the way done with the prequel to this. It's called Antonius. Once you guys read it, you'll see why. So click the link, check it out. It's $10. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's $0. If you read a lot, you should have Kindle. It's amazing. And of course, if, the only reason this is so expensive, $32, if you will, is because there's things that happen in this story. And when certain things happen, the ink will change color. And that's all I'll say. But
oh shit, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, check it out. Secundos.
Nice. Like the use of Latin. I like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you have super chats, Neil? You have one.
I have one super chat, believe it or not. So let's read that out. Will you guys cover some of the claims made by Yosef Yahuda's Hebrew is Greek? We did talk about it a little bit, so we can just touch on it real quick. Given
you can pull it up on
as a supporting his position. Thanks for the video. Thank you for the super chat, by the way.
Personally, I would not cover it simply because I only know Greek and am only beginning to learn Hebrew. So going through this book, I would just have to take his word for it that there's all of these similarities. But yeah, it does seem to be very, very detailed. He has some errors like catharsis instead of catharsis and things that I could nitpick. So, I mean, I could go through and maybe figure out, how good his Greek is. He's obviously not credentialed, but he's done some homework and he probably knows Hebrew, but I have no way to judge this. And Ammon doesn't have any way to judge this either, because he doesn't know Hebrew either. He just likes the conclusion. And so he's
by the way, every person I know who knows both Hebrew and Greek, who are qualified to read this book, say there's so many problems. It's like bad. But they did say what you kind of said. They're like, this guy obviously did a lot of research.
Right. Well, listen,
he made a lot of good comparisons.
I got an argument I wrote down from that book that I really thought was interesting. Now, I'm not saying this is not again, I don't look for it absolutely blah, blah, blah. All right. But in all their examples of a language that goes back that far, there's the structure of it, right? And that it's a crafted kind of like a registered law type language. And there's multiple examples of languages that work like that, and they're constructed like that, right? Like our Constitution and like law language, stuff like that. But there's also and then one of the questions he asks, where are the older copies? Where are the named authors? Where are the foreign citations? Where are the fragments? And where are the catalog lists that we find with other libraries that have been burnt down, other languages that have been all over the place, but even if they've been destroyed or snuffed out, that they're referenced or whatever else? And I think that was a question I was trying to talk earlier. I'm not smart enough to go into that, but he asked that question. And so I find that really fascinating, even though I haven't gone on the journey myself to go check all the fact check to be like, okay,
that question that you just asked is the question that a lot of scholars have been asking about the possibility that the Hebrew Bible is not as old as we originally thought.
I mean, a fire that just destroyed everything that's no evidence of.
But that's not what. But this is the thing. Luke got misunderstood there. Luke's not saying that there's a fire that destroyed everything, and then we think it existed before that. No, we know it existed because we see the spread of Semitic languages in the Levant, such as Syriac, Aramaic, Arabic.
Right, it's multilingual. It's
Phoenicia,
multilingual. That's the interesting part too.
That's what I'm saying. So Phoenician,
yeah.
Hebrew,
it's not organic like Greek is, though. Like Greek's it's actually a stream.
It's absolutely
it's a stream that goes all the way back.
It's absolutely organic. I just said that's what I was just saying.
When
you look at the spread, let me finish my thought. When you look at the spread of Semitic languages, you can go all the way back to the Akkadians in the 2000 BC. There's the Akkadian language. It's the first major Semitic language of the Near East, and it spreads all the way across. You get Ugaritic, you get ancient Syriac, you get ancient Aramaic, you get all these different dialects that turn into Phoenician, Punic, Carthaginian. Even Egyptian is an Afro-Asiatic language closely related to the Semitic. So that whole part of the world produces Semitic languages. Where in the Bronze Age, when you get Mycenaean, you get Lydian, you get You get these different dialects that look like that turn into Greek, the Proto-Greek dialects that end up being Aeolian, that end up being Doric, end up being Ionian Greek. So the same thing's happening in Greece that's happening in the quote-unquote Semitic languages. So there's no indication, there's zero indication that Hebrew was just invented out of thin air. One last thing. However, the problem that you're pointing out of the destruction of libraries and the lack of evidence of text, what that points to is that the Hebrew Bible not being cited by people in Aramaic, for example, because we have tons of Aramaic texts in Elephantine, the fact that they're not mentioning the Bible, they're not mentioning Abraham, points to a different problem, that the Hebrew Bible might be not as old as we thought, maybe even Hellenistic.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and so also that book seems to be positioned as argument against the question that I asked, and I thought you guys were, I guess I thought you were in a different position of that ancient Hebrew, its claim to how its language worked, makes it an isolated religion that arose in like a pristine, isolated environment, and it sits atop, and it refuses to acknowledge any of the ritual infrastructure that's in the earlier cults that echoes in their texts, and it's like denial of borrowing, basically, right? And then they use that for power, control, and submission, right? So I have this really old thing it's the Joseph Smith's golden tablets. These angels gave me these tablets, so you just have to trust me, and this is absolutely the way to do it, and I'm now your leader. So that sounds like what that book's arguing against, as opposed to like influences, multi-languages, like evolving into it or being used for it, all that other stuff. But multilingual, like that, ancient Greek is not, as far as I know, I don't think it's multilingual. I think there's like an untouched kind of stream where it can trace back. That's why we can go all the way back to like Mycenaean. I'm not sure though. I'm not a linguist.
Yeah, show that page again. So like I just flipped to 478 really randomly. I was just scrolling, right? And I stopped somewhere and I just take a look. Now, I don't know the Hebrew, so like I can't talk about the arguments, but I can say that like Alifar is spurious. It's Alifar. I can see that like this is also not correct. It should be Theres with the stress on the end. It is not the diminutive of Thera. Theridos would be the genitive, which would come after it.
So there's a bunch of mistakes off the bat. You're noticing.
Yeah. So basically, like if I turn to a random page here, I see orthographical errors and a few other
is this self-published or is it peer? Is this going through some publisher?
This is definitely not peer review. So basically somebody who doesn't have, like I saw some other errors here.
A waste of time.
So somebody who doesn't have a degree, who's not credentialed, and look, I'm not credentialed either.
No.
But it's like
let me stop myself there. It's not a waste of time for self-published. What I'm saying is, if you're self-publishing and you're making grand claims about like languages invented, then it's a waste of time. If you're just publishing a book that you think is like your interesting shit that you want to, that I'm going to do that too, by the way. I'm actually working on something right now. I'm going to self-publish, but I'm not going to try to change the world with some crazy theory. That's all I'm saying. And I shouldn't have said it that way. That was wrong. So but nothing wrong with self-publishing.
But I could say for certain that this book has not gone through peer review, because a peer review process, at least a light editorial process, would have weeded out some of these mistakes. I saw some other ones too, but it's a really, really bad sign when you can just literally flip to a random page, like close your eyes, stick your finger in a page, turn it open, and find errors. This is not a book I would necessarily want to delve
something
deep
this
into.
Something this technical has to be peer reviewed. That's all I'm trying to say. I wasn't trying to make a point, because that's very elitist for me to say something stupid like that. I want to control. I wanted to fix that real quick before we go.
But so I think we got to a pretty good consensus. Like, I mean, so I'm going to say this and you tell me if I'm wrong. We all agree that the claim that the ancient Hebrew Bible, like that whole thing that we kind of know, I guess, from New King James or whatever else, but that whole thing, and when it's told as if it is untouched by everything else around it, they came up with all of this stuff on their own and were not influenced by anyone else around them, that was kind of used as like a power structure. We agree that makes sense. Are we on the same page with all that, or does anyone think that that their claim's correct?
No, that's it. But I wanted to say something. I want to recommend a video for you right here. I did this video right here. I don't feel like. Hold on, let me just get rid of this. With Ian Young, he's a PhD professor of biblical studies in ancient languages. He knows Hebrew and Greek. And I asked him straight up about the Hebrew Bible, dating the Hebrew, the linguistic side of it. And I'm telling you, you're going to learn. This is like the guy to ask. And guess what? He's not defending the narrative of the Bible. He's very much on the opposite side. He's saying we shouldn't date it that far back. It's actually, we probably should be a little more, I don't know if we'd say conservative or liberal for going towards Hellenistic side.
And Russell Kamerkian cites this guy a lot.
Yes,
this is a really powerful, functional thing to agree on.
Let me just play the intro real quick.
Selections of 500 Hebrew words to do these samples. I really struggled.
Sorry.
We did experiments where we gathered selections of 500 Hebrew words to do these samples. I really struggled. I found the Arad Ostraca. I shoved in a lot of personal names to get up to 500 words because they're quite small. So they're only little tiny windows into what language would look like, where we actually have dated and localized language. And when we look at the inscriptions, you often hear people say, well, the inscriptions are just like early Hebrew in the Bible, and they prove that classical biblical Hebrew is early or something like that. But as I said, I found quite a few late biblical Hebrew features, but I find a ton of things in the inscriptions that are either really rare in the Bible or just not found at all. Here's something that I always keep coming back to. In our pre-exilic inscriptions, there's only a few things that we have quite a lot of. I mean, one thing that everyone accepts, as far as I know, is that all of our biblical texts are written in a later style of spelling, and supposedly early Hebrew, you've got like Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah. Yahu is the divine element at the end of a word, or you get Yirmiyah. Yirmiyahu is supposed to be early, Yirmiyah is supposed to be late. We have a solid number of names, especially from the northern part of Israel, which end in Yao. So in other words, not Yahu, but Yao, a contracted form. And they're relatively well attested in our pre-exilic inscriptions. There is not one of them in any biblical text. We never ever get a Yao name turning up in a biblical text.
This might all be post-exilic because the way this name is spelled with Yao at the end, and it's common for pre-exilic times, and then you just don't find that anymore in any of the biblical text. That's kind of like not a really good sign that this is pre-exilic. It makes it look like it's post-exilic.
Yeah, it makes it look like post-exilic, or that it's been solidly edited in the post-exilic periods. And it really shows that the author had a mastery of classical language, classical Hebrew style, that he can write really good classical Hebrew, but with some Qumran peculiarities to it.
So I just wanted people, if you want to get deep into linguistics, that's the video to watch. It's on my channel.
Very cool.
There's one more super chat before we go. Dude, what is that? Due diligence.
It's due diligence.
Oh, due diligence. Nice. All right, I'm stupid. We know the Bible/book is Hellenistic because before Hellenism, there is no biblical corpus/literature. It's all oral. And the oral tradition is theatrical, meant to be read aloud. That's an interesting point.
Interesting.
I mean, I would say it's an interesting point of like when the period is of what the time it matches up with, I guess is what they're trying to say. That makes sense.
I'm just super happy that everybody doesn't think that they just like invented all this shit. It's great. Like, I mean, I don't know why everybody's arguing over it at this point. That's like such a functional spear to throw some of this crap. I mean, it's just like, I don't mean that in a mean way, but like, hot damn.
Well, everybody agrees that it took its final form in the Hellenistic period, that there's a redactional layer. The question is like, what existed before that? How far back does it go? What form did it look like? Because what we have has been like filtered through the
completely edited.
Because
in the Ugaritic, which by the way, if you compare Ugaritic to Hebrew, there's a lot that lines up. It's like comparing Mycenaean to classical Greek. There's like they almost look like one's going into the other one. However, even more important is in the Ugaritic text, you have the story of Baal defeating the Leviathan. And in Psalms, the book of Psalms, Yahweh defeats the Leviathan. And it's structured almost in the same way. It looks like they're borrowing an Ugaritic story from the Leviathan. And then you also have like the flood narratives from Utnapishtim, Artahasis, Epic of Gilgamesh, tons of Near Eastern myths that you could find rewritten in Hebrew. So There's that.
Yeah. And Homer has a similar feature in the Attic dialect. Like it was the Attic dialect that sort of fossilized Homer, but then it has like all of these other dialects mixed in. It's obviously using some older material, but it takes its final form in the classical period, and it obscures a lot of its origins. Like we don't have older copies of Homer. You know, they're all from the classical period and post-classical period.
And like the what do you call it? Hapax legonima in Homer?
Tons of them. Yeah.
Do you guys know what that is real quick before we go?
Yeah, or it's like Orphic Vox, isn't it?
It means there's only one word that exists in all of the lexicons, and it's just in Homer.
Yeah, hapax means once, and legomenon means said. So it's said.
It's
once.
only said by Homer, and it's what is the number? It's like 20% of Homer is a hapax legonima.
I think it's more.
I got a lot.
I was trying to be low on the estimate.
How would we know that if we don't have everything that we?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It only
the other stuff's quoted being there. So
so scholars had to piece together what these words mean based on the time.
Right. Oh, right, because we're missing it. Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
What I'm saying is that if 85% of the written language was lost, how do we know it was? Never mind. Just.
No. I think you guys are saying the same thing.
But the same thing with Biblical Hebrew. So there are 8,600.
Yeah.
There's 8,000 words, but 1,500 of them are hapax legomena. So that means if we didn't have that one little sliver of a manuscript that got saved, we wouldn't know that word existed. Like it would just.
And by the way they can piece together the hapax legonimas in Homer is because the sentence itself will have like 9 words, 10 words. 9 of them are words we know, and then there'll be one hapax legonima there, and then we can look at the context and figure out what that word is. Sometimes. Sometimes it might be hard.
You can guess your way through certain hapax legomena, like the escrocine or escrocune, right? Like that word that Ammon mentioned. That's also a hapax legomena, but we know what it means because there's a synonym
because you can piece it together, right?
Yeah.
What was the joke that he? Wasn't there some plant? I forget who it was that wrote in one of the stories, and then later on another writer was like, yeah, he had an affinity for that. Just making shit up, and this is how we know that. I don't know. I don't want to get into
Homer. Homer talks about the root cutters a lot. He mentions those.
There's specific plants that they use as magic in this story.
Oh yeah.
And then later on, another Greek writer's like, oh yeah, and he also used it too when it was just a mythical fucking plant, right? So they're mythicizing the person that mythicized the plant.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. All right. Well, for 4 hours, so this has been great. Any last thoughts? Witch Doctor, are you about to say something?
Oh no, man. If y'all want to check out my page, it's @_Witch Doctor. You see me in the comments. Let's see. Yo, click it, follow.
And you have just attained true gnosis.
You have just attained true gnosis. The demiurge has no power over